Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the GTFusiOn World Team Championship 2021 as brought to you on Gran Turismo Sport. And tonight marks round 5 of the 6-round calendar, over which our drivers will be competing to be the best of the best teams that have entered this series from the season opener a good number of months ago, winding the clock all the way back to the start of this year. We're now on the 5th round of the 6-round calendar, and indeed, whilst we've still got some races to go, the points couldn't be more critical for our drivers as they take to the Japanese circuit of Autopolis International racing course for what is expected to be a very tight and tense round. Now, before we come onto the schedule and all things on those lines, including the cars, our drivers, tonight's broadcast for Group F is being brought to you on YouTube by myself. My name's Paul Walsh, also known as TX141 or Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on, and we'll be bringing you Group F as they take to the circuit throughout the entirety of tonight. Now, of course, Group F is our 6th split in this series. We have splits ranging from Group A, which is our top split, all the way down to, I believe, Group O, or even Group S in some instances. We have got in excess of 20 splits taking part over the course of this racing weekend, and we are bringing you the 6th split. That is Group F once again. Indeed, some very skilled and very talented drivers here, and some names that you'll know from other racing series on GT Sport, whether they're the official FIA series or indeed the independent series set up by other organisations. So our schedule for tonight, we have 4 races and 2 qualifying sessions. We'll be starting off with qualifying at 1:15. So our time zone here is British Summer Time or UTC +1. It is currently 6 minutes past 8 British Summer Time this evening, as may be seen in the top right corner of your lobby screen that you're looking at right now, or 7 minutes past, it's just transitioned to. And at 15 minutes past the hour, we'll be getting underway with the first qualifying session. 15 minutes to determine who will be on pole for race number 1. Following that, we will then have number 1 straight away after that. And race number 1, of course, will be a sprint, a 6-lap sprint, and that will determine the grid order for race number 2 that follows it immediately afterwards. So whoever finishes first in race number 1 will start at the back for race number 2, and vice versa, all the way down to those who finish last in race number 1 will start at the front for race number 2. Race number 2 will be a feature race where it'll be 17 laps, a triple distance race practically, and indeed within that one we can expect there's the more important strategic aspect while drivers may be expected to make pit stops, where it's one, multiple or a potential no stop. We will have to wait and see. After race number 2, we'll be taking a break. We'll be taking approximately a 10-minute break, and then we will be back racing once again, starting off with qualifying session number 2. Qualifying session number 2 expected to occur, just to give you a rough order of schedule here. It'll be the case that qualifying number 2 will be about approximately 9:30 tonight, and that will be a 6-minute session, essentially a qualifying shootout of a limited number of laps to determine who will be on pole for race number 3. Race number 3 will then be another 6-lap sprint, and then after that, of course, we will have the reverse grid order for the purposes of race number 4, much like the transition from race number 1 to race number 2, and race number 4 is again a feature race, a 17-lap feature race with the all-important strategic aspect. Now, coming away from our schedule, let's also talk about the cars our drivers will be taking to the circuit tonight. Tonight, we are commemorating a special event that occurred within Super GT, the 2019 Super GT series in particular. Now, for those of you who are not aware, the 6th round of the 2019 Super GT series took place at Autopolis, at this circuit in Oita Prefecture, Japan. And if you want to narrow it down a little bit further, this circuit is located in Hita City in the Oita Prefecture. Now, in the round itself, within the 6th round of the 2019 Super GT series, the reason why it was such a special round is because the Autopolis race gave the impression of a roller coaster and some sudden showers. And most in particular would be the case that Lexus was to triumph in both classes. So both in what was the overall victory, and also in the GT500 class effectively, and also in the GT300 class, whereby it was the combination of Heikki Kovalainen and Yuichi Nakayama taking the overall victory in the GT500 class, and it would be the case of Ritomo Miyata and Hiroki Yoshimoto would win the GT300 class, both in Lexus RCF machines of the different caliber. But it was a special day for Lexus. Of course, the Japanese team, whilst Lexus is typically more represented within the United States as being the American offshoot of Toyota, they do trace their history all the way back, of course, to the Japanese Toyota, and indeed the offshoot from Toyota there. So that's why we are back here today for a special commemoration of the Japanese team, if you will, and their abilities and their success in the 2019 Super GT series. Now, a little bit about the drivers, of course, back then. Heikki Johannes Kovalainen was born the 19th of October 1981 in Finland, in Salami, Finland, I should say. A Finnish driver, took part in 111 Formula 1 Grand Prix. That's what many of you will be aware of when he took part in Formula 1. And in 2015, he moved to Japan to compete in the Super GT500 class with Team SARD or Team SARD, and he won the championship in his second season of the series in 2016. Meanwhile, Nakayama Yuichi, the Tokyo-born driver, 25th of July 1991 is when he was born, is a Japanese racing driver. He has an impressive list of successes and is far from being a novice. Maybe the best-known driver for winning the 2013 All Japan Formula 3 Championship. Now, the circuit itself, the Autopolis Racing Circuit, is 4.6 kilometers in length. It's got a long straight of what is 902 metres, so almost a kilometre long straight coming out the final corner. There are 19 corners at this circuit, Sector 1 being the power-intensive sector, Sector 2 being the one that shows a combination of the need for both handling and also power, and Sector 3, perhaps my favourite sector personally as a commentator and a sim racer. It is my favourite sector of any racing circuit in the world, and you're going to see because it is a handling sector which is all about the balance of the car as you try to rotate it through the corners, and we will see plenty of that. And to commemorate Super GT and the fact that we are at the legendary Super GT Japanese circuit, our drivers will be taken to the circuits tonight in a rather formal GT500 car, and that is the Lexus AU Tom's RCF 2016 car, the GT2 class car as mentioned in GT Sport, but it is of course a Super GT car, and our drivers will not be running the standard balance of performance. They'll be instead running a preset balance of performance with 104% power, so that's 638 brake horsepower, a weight of 102% or 1040 kilograms, and they are permitted to tune the cars. So our drivers will bring their own personal tunes to the circuit today, so that is one of the key aspects here where all of our teams will have been putting in weeks of practice in order to determine the perfect tune, and on top of that figure out what works best for the circuit. And I think the majority of drivers will be going for a high downforce setup, particularly for Sector 2 and also to a degree for Sector 3, and setups which focus very heavily on cornering. So particularly we're going to be seeing a lot of negative camber on these cars, and that will be to help them get through the corners and carry as much apex speed. Damage will be heavy, so if our drivers do pick up damage, they're expected to come into the pits or alternatively fight on with the damage they've got on the car, and our drivers will be using the Racing Hard tyre throughout the entirety of tonight. There's only one compound available. It is the Racing Hard, as brought to us by Bridgestone, and sorry, not Bridgestone, my apologies, by Michelin, and it will be the case that our drivers will have to make the less grippy tyre but the high durability tyre work here. We have a very high rate of tyre wear as well. We have a tyre wear of times 20 and a fuel depletion of times 9, so we are expecting in the feature races tyre changes and at least refillings of fuel on the car. But without further ado, we are shortly going to be getting underway with proceedings. In approximately 2 minutes, we will be going qualifying, and I'll proceed to introduce the drivers in terms of their ELO order once we enter that first qualifying session. But whilst we are waiting, let's say hello to you guys and girls in the chat. And we can see we've got ATR Dachu there saying hello and saying let's go KRT and ATR, a supporter of both teams. We've also got ATR Coaster there, and good evening to you both from the ATR team. We hope you're doing well. We've also got Carlo and Mastro Donato there saying hello. I hope you're doing well, Carlo, and it's good to see you here as well. And to those of you tuning in, if you are tuning in right now and you have access to the chat, do not be shy. Feel free to say hi. It doesn't bite whatsoever to say hello, and let me know how you're doing, how your weekend's going, and who you are here to support today. Now, I should point out to you that we were expecting 14 drivers. I believe we may be missing at least one, if not two, of our drivers today. But without further ado, as we are now only a minute away from qualifying, we're just going to make sure our keyboard works and that we're not going to have any potential technical issues with our keyboard, and then it will be the case that we'll be going qualifying very soon. As we can see, keyboard and everything's working. All of our cameras are working, so we are going to be getting underway as per the schedule. And as you can see here, we've got plenty of drivers representing different teams, different nations, and this is what the championship is all about. It's an international championship bringing the best of the best teams together, fighting out for all important prizes, and indeed also in the spirit of good racing, good sportsmanship, and a lot of fun, as our drivers are just making their way around right now and getting ready to go. And of course, we will, as part of the qualifying session, bring you an onboard lap with one of our drivers, and I'll take you through one of the perhaps what I would argue to be one of the most challenging circuits you could ever race at in the real world and also in the sim world, just simply because of the way the circuit is constructed to push you through the ultimate test of handling here at Autopolis. A circuit which is not necessarily popular with a lot of drivers for the simple reason that it's a very on-edge circuit and it doesn't offer that many overtaking opportunities, and we will talk about the potential overtaking spots and also what we expect strategically in the races as well. Qualifying is going to be extremely important here for the sprint races for the simple reason Autopolis, as I've said, does not have many overtaking zones, but as we can see there, our lobby host KRT's Clarence is just giving us the thumbs up to say we are good to go for qualifying and we will be going racing very shortly indeed, as we are just watching THG R18E. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's get qualifying underway and see how our drivers prevail in the opening qualifier. Qualifying 1, 15 minutes. Who's going to be on pole? So as all of our drivers will make their way out onto the circuit, it's only apt as they do that we start to introduce our drivers in terms of their ELO, or their RP as it's also known. So these are their ranking points effectively, and we'll be starting from the highest ranking points and working our way downwards. So we're going to start off then with the British driver here of R.A. Bobby. Now R.A. Bobby, for those who are unaware, is representing Team ART as we see him make his way down towards turn number 3 right now. And with an ELO of 1,240, he is reckoned to be the strongest of our drivers going into tonight's racing. Now a little bit about the rating system, the ELO. What it does, it aims to match our drives up as equally as possible across the different teams. That way we do not end up with stacked lobbies. And the intention of this as well is to give our drivers who have the highest ELO in the lobby that pressure of having to hold on to their ELO rating to try and move back up into higher lobbies. Whereas our drivers who are coming up through the field with lower ELOs, if they get good results and do very well overall over the course of the racing, then you can imagine they may make significant gains and move up into a higher lobby themselves. So it balances out and means that each team will get a different set of points from each of the races, and every team has an opportunity to gain some major points. But we've got RAA's Bobby here representing Team ART, and he is the highest of our drivers here. We then come on to the Polish driver of what is KRT's Clarence, so representing Team KRT today, the Polishman, making his way right now through the final sector, as he is our lobby host, he's our trackside steward as well, so he is making sure that everything runs smoothly today, and we're working with him to ensure that as well, as Clarence makes his way through the final sets of corners right now. With an ELO of 1,238.99, our second highest driver, and nipping at the heels of Bobby. Then our third driver in terms of ELO rating, we have seen him previously. We saw him in round number 4 when we broadcasted the races. It is CBR's Ipsimo 91, the Italian driver here, making his way out of turn 19, out of the final corner there, and onto his opening qualifying lap there. The Italian, a fan favourite for a number of reasons. A very strong driver, but also a very friendly driver. And the INCR representative today, representing Team INCR, will be looking to score well with an ELO of 1,237.77. He is on the heels of Clarence and looking to make a name. We then got in our fourth of our ELO rankings, we do have one RTA Momo, who we're just trying to find Momo around on circuit right now. You'll have to excuse us. There he is. There's the RTA driver as he makes his way through the extended left-hander of what is turn number 8. And as he comes on through, the Belgian Team RTA, of course, a team that's very well known and respected within the GT Fusion community, and a very strong team as he makes his way on down towards the turn 11 hairpin here in the number 24 car, and Momo on that ELO rating of 1,236.14. He will be representing Team RTA tonight. Fifth up, meanwhile, we've got KSZR's Lumic, and we can see Lumic here making his way down towards turn number 12. Into Sector 3 he goes, and this is, of course, the Czechoslovakian driver here, representing Team KSZR, and we can expect great things from him. The Czechoslovakian contingent within Gran Turismo Sport, a little bit of unheard of, perhaps, outside of certain individuals, but we do know that Lumic, a very fast driver, and one to watch out for in that rather lovely-looking livery orange-black Lexus as he makes his way through the final sector. And he's on an ELO rating of 1,235.98, so very close to the ELO of Momo 87 from Team RTA. You then got to go a further half a point down to 1,235.44, and there you will find the driver of what is, as we try to find him out on circuit, it is the Frenchman of GTWGP, and that's Zikpok, as he makes his way down towards what is turn 1 once again. He comes across the timeline to set his inaugural qualifying lap here, and the Frenchman representing what is Team GTWGP tonight, and we'll be referring to him as Zikpok from this point forwards. And then we have got our ART's Zeno on 1235.00, the dead middle of our lobby, and we can see the Dutchman here right now making his way out of turn number 1. He's currently provisional P2 in this qualifying session. And the Dutch contingent as well, the Dutch Army, very strong in GT Sport, and the ART driver representing his team tonight, he will be proud to do so. And then coming on to the second half of our overall lobby in terms of ELO rating, we start off with THG's R18E, and of course the Australian driver here, who you can see, the THG driver here. THG community, of course, a growing racing team and a very strong racing team. They've got a lot of very strong members who are taking part in this series and have recently jumped on board with a number of other endurance series as well. But we can see here R18E making his way through the downhill right-hander turn. 12 and into 13 he goes right now, and the Australian will look to do well with his ELO of 1,234.64. However, we have the Mexican driver of what is GTMX Carlos, who's making his way right now down through turn 12 as well, and we can see the Mexican here in the 767 car, and he is on an ELO of 1,234 base, and he will be representing Team GTMX tonight. Unfortunately, we will not be seeing RTA's Fluffy Butt join us tonight due to technical issues in his local area, and with regards to his equipment. So we will not be seeing RTA's Fluffy Butt, and therefore the second RTA driver in this lobby tonight, which is very unfortunate. We wish him well, of course. And then we have got our backup host of GTB's Damien92i, who, as we see, has just set provisional pole as the GTB driver goes across the timing line there, and the Frenchman, well, the part of the GTB team, the Gran Turismo Boardless Esports team, a team which is known very well because they are one of the major teams that helps run this series. They've been there since the start, and you can imagine that Damien will be looking to do the best he can tonight for the team that really put this series out there on the map. And Damien will have a lot of eyes on him. He's a very fast driver from what I'm hearing as well, and perhaps one of the underdogs. And he's on an ELO of 1,232.50. Then going a further 0.48 points down to 1,232.02, we have another KRT driver, and that is the Polishman here of Chloe Michael. And I probably haven't pronounced that correctly. My Polish is not too good, but we'll refer to him as Michael from this point onwards. And we can see him making his way up the hill right now, out of turn 13. And the Polishman currently P2 provisional in this qualifying session. And then last but not least, in terms of the ELO rated drivers here, we do have PRT's, what is, oh goodness me, a name which I'm going to have to try and pronounce on the spot here, Daj Pizzotti, and we're going to be referring to him as Zloty at this point onwards, and the PRT driver making his way uphill right now, and we can see the Polishman indeed representing Team PRT tonight, and we've indeed got two Polish teams going toe-to-toe, KRT and PRT, both very proud racing. We've seen that previously in races, great respect between the two teams, and it's the case that Zloty has the lowest of our ratings tonight with a rating of 1,231.11. But good luck to all of our drivers, and now let's talk a little bit about the qualifying session as we just make sure that everything is underway. And we can see here that we have got in the chat as well, we've got Shuka Meteor RTA who's saying hello, good evening to you Shupaka, as we can see Go RTA, Momo and Fluffy. Unfortunately we haven't got Fluffy, but we do have Momo in here, and we've also got Piosko saying good evening, and it's good to see you here. And it's going to be Klavi Mihal, and we have got Day Piench Zloty, so we're going to be referring to the KRT driver as Zloty, who you can see here. Thank you for confirming, Pio, and we will be referring to the KRT driver as what will be, we refer to him as Mihal from this point onwards, if that's okay with you guys and girls. But on to qualifying then. So far it does look as though that THG's R18E has taken the fastest lap provisionally so far, as we are halfway into the qualifying session. Let's get all that data up on screen for you as well, so that way you can see everybody's times as they currently stand. But R18E seems to have set the fastest time of this qualifying session where no tyre wear is active and no fuel consumption is active, so everybody's just go, go, go. He is fastest by almost 4 tenths of a second. We then got Damien right now, who's in a solid second place, and he will be on the front row alongside R18E. Remember, it is a standing start for all 4 races today. No rolling starts, standing starts, and we'll come to one that's critical shortly. We then got Mihal from KRT right now on a 136.2. He's only a tenth off of Damien in P3, but he's got to be wary of the fact, oh goodness, we've just had a jump here, and it is now Momo87 from RTA who's got a 136.1. A good lap there, as we see a response there from Clarence as well. Everybody improving right now, as Clarence difference goes up to 136.144, but you can see in the hunt for the second slot on that front row now, the deficit is only 14 thousandths of a second, and that is a tiny margin here at this circuit, so nobody is safe from daming backwards right now, although THG's R18E does seem to feel a little bit secure right now. But looking further down, we do have Michał now in P5. We have got Zotti in P6, the PRT driver on a 36.281, and he is 1.6 tenths ahead of AOT's Zeno right now, who does not improve on that lap. He's just come out of the pits, I think, with a fresh pair of tyres, just to give himself a little bit of space out on the circuit, and Zeno going once again here. He's only 7 tenths off of our fastest lap, so that puts him on what is a 36.4, which is still a good lap in its own right. We then got 1.5 tenths to CBR's Ipsimo 91, who's on a 36.588. Then we've got the Mexican driver at GTMX, Carlitos, and we can see here the GTMX driver on a 36.639 as it currently stands here. Can he improve and get himself onto the fourth row? And then we've got alongside him, and the provisional standings right now, we've got Bobby, the ART driver here on a 36.719, and the Briton would do well to improve here because he's quite a way off of the top 5, but he's got still plenty of time. And then it would seem that in P11 at the moment we've got Zeepock here, and I do believe we may have a situation where two drivers cannot see each other, ladies and gentlemen, because to see there Zeepock and also Lumic tagging onto one another like this would indicate that one driver cannot see the other, and therefore we're in a situation whereby they are holding on to one another connectivity wise, so that may come into a factor in the race, but fingers crossed not. But Zeepock right now P11, and then Lumic from KS ZR, the Czechoslovakian driver here, last but not least, as it currently stands in a 37.2 in P12. 12 drives in this lobby tonight. But looking back up the order, we do see here THG's R18E doing a very good job as it currently stands. He makes his way around the circuit, and well, he has raised the bar a little bit further at 35.757, but you can see that Michał here from KRT has improved to 36.079, but nobody else other than our pole sitter has managed to find a 35 out on circuit. Now, the thing about Autopolis, we're going to ride on board shortly to give you a guided lap. Why is this such a challenging circuit? Well, what you can see here is in all three sectors, each sector represents something different about the car, but it's the final sector in particular where all the lap time is made or lost, as Michał is now going to show us on a third-person perspective. Because in the final sector, it doesn't matter how powerful a car you have, it's all about how well you can hold your apex speed through each and every corner. And particularly now, as we see Michał going through 14 and 15 and into the double right-hander of 15 and 16, before he then has to go back into the left-hander of 17, you can see in low gears here, it's all about stability and the ability to have confidence and getting on the throttle as he now makes his way up into the penultimate corner of 18, an extended right-hander where you've got to be patient and then build the throttle up on exit, and now through 19, the left-hand kink to complete the lap. I think it's only appropriate that we jump on board with our fastest man as he takes us around 4 laps. So we ride on board here with THG's R18E and give you that guide lap as he improves to 35.692, raising the bar by another 10th. So coming down to turn 1 then, looking for the braking board on the left-hand side, looking for that 50-metre board, coming all the way down through the gears to second gear. Second gear corner, downhill camber change, and stamping on the throttle there as he exits out, letting the car flow to the outside. Through turn 2, the right-hand kink, that completes sector 1, a fast sector. Braking into turn number 3 here, coming down to third gear, attacking the apex curve, but moving the car over to the right as soon as possible before switching back to left for the double left-hander of turns 4 and 5. Now getting ready for the hairpin at 6, you'll see he'll place the car on the left and snap it to the right here, taking a late apex and down a first gear to open up the rear end, before stamping the throttle into 7, flat out. Into 8 now, an extended left-hander here where you've got to balance it on the throttle in 4th gear. We'll see a snap downshift there to 3rd gear. He's gone a little bit wide of apex there. He'd want to be tighter to the apex now. He comes through turn number 9 effectively, turn 9 up into 10, and as he comes into 11 now at the hairpin here, we've missed out one of the corners in our numbering scheme, but what you can see in turn 11, the hairpin coming all the way down to 1st gear, and as he rolls off of the summit, because it's a hill, you can see just getting a little bit of a disturbance there as he came out and putting the rear right-hand wheel in particular on the dirt outside the exit curb, and R18 really pushed it to the limit and keeping the car out of the wall, fortunately, as he now rejoined. But that is how tough it is to get a good lap around here. If you want to be the fastest, you have got to push it to the limit, and it looks as though R18 there pushed it a little bit too hard as our drivers continue to make their way around. So instead, what we're going to do, we're going to jump on board with our P2 man now, our provisional P2 man of KRT's Michał, and we're going to take you through his lap and complete our lap effectively. So we're going to see, and also this will give us an opportunity to see where Michał may be a little bit different in his approach as he makes his way all the way down towards turn 1. So again, remember, turn 1, he's looking for that 50-meter board here, but he wants to keep it on the apex curb. Now, the thing about the curb here, or the curbs in general at this circuit, is he goes a bit wide there, is these curbs can be abused, but not too hard, because they can actually launch the car, given the fact the road camber changes, or the angle of the road. Into turn 3, how tight will he keep it to the apex here? He's going to go for a tight line. Can he keep it all the way over to the right? He does, and you can see Michał there with a much more sincere line as he makes his way through 4 and 5, and now up into the hairpin of 6 here. He goes for a slightly earlier apex here, not trailer braking it as heavily, and now into what is turn number 7 here, and as he makes his way through 7, it's the double left-hander effectively here of 8 and 9, so you've got the initial turn in, and then the follow-through past the guardsman post of turn number 9, and now into turn 10, the extended right-hander here as he makes his way up the hill, and into turn 11, now into the hairpin. He'll come all the way down from the 100-meter board under braking, down to first gear, going a bit deep there. A lot of times getting caught out by the fact the road surface goes higher and then lower there, and as he now comes down into sector 3, this is the most challenging sector because turn number 12, a third gear corner here as he rolls down the hill, or a fourth gear corner as he's tuned the car, and he immediately now has to get ready for 13, a flowing pair of corners before getting ready to go up the hill, the charge up the mountain now as he goes into turn number 14 and into 15, the double right-hander of 15 and 16, and you can see that just drifting wide, a lot of body roll on the car before coming back to left-hander of 17, and it's now the case that as he goes into 18, and my apologies, we're calling the hairpin 11, it should be 10, and as he goes into 18, now this is the official turn number 18, it's the case as he goes through the long right-hander, being able to keep it nice and tight to the exit and across the line out of turn 19. It's not going to be a major improvement, but that gives you an idea of the sort of lap here and what we're looking for, that grip in the final sector. But as we're now coming to our final qualifying laps here, we will see if anybody is able to improve as R18 goes around to go onto one final lap. He should just creep through for one final lap, as we also see Damien here do the same. As he does come across that line, it is a situation he does not improve. He's on to one more lap. If Simo's what, and I think Carlitos here just able to get across the line in time. He just crept across, but we now have the checkered flag out to complete the qualifying session. So Zepok does not improve from P11, so he will be starting P11 or lower. What about Lumic? Lumic has parked up, so his qualifying session is over. As we see IRT's Zeno improve there to what is a 36.368. That puts him provisional P8, and that might be a good shout at a start on the 4th row, but we still got plenty more drivers making their way around the circuit. As we see PRT's Zloty makes his way to the pits. He's jumped to the pits, so he's no higher than P7 in this qualifying session. What about elsewhere around the circuit? We're just trying to find who's coming to the end of a lap. We know we've got a driver coming into turn 18 right now. I believe as if Simo's gone very wide there. That's coming out of what is turn number 7. So if Simo's got it very wrong, what about, well, it's the case, I think Bobby's coming out. Bobby does improve to a 36.6. That's only good enough for P10 here. It's very close in the hunt for pole position right now, at least the good middle field as he makes his way across that timeline. We've still got what is THG's R18E trying to go on an even faster lap, but then we've got KRT's Michał Meg. He's about the final corner. He's gone a little bit wide there, a bit of oversteer on the exit as he comes across the line. He does not improve, neither does Morrow, so they'll be starting respectively P2 and P5 the highest. What about our GTB driver? Well, he's got the THG driver ahead of him, of course. Can R18E go even faster than that 35.692, or will that be enough? I think it's going to be enough here. He's been dominant in qualifying, and he goes even faster with a 35.589. Goodness me, man. Well, if you were to make a statement, he's made one. That is a phenomenal pole position. Nobody's going to be able to beat that, surely. And I think it is the case right now, ladies and gentlemen. Qualifying is over. Nobody else is on lap, and pole position for race 1 goes to THG's R18E. And alongside him will be KRT's Michał. It's time for race number 1. So as he panned down to the grid then for the opening sprint, 6 laps of the Autopolis circuit. THG's R18 on the left, it is Michał from KRT on the right, and behind Damien and Clarence. But watch out for Momo 87 on the 3rd row. What can he do from P5? And it's lights out and away we go for the opening race of round 5 for Group F. And we can see that we've already got a phenomenal start from Clarence, who's going around the outside into turn 1. He started on the second race, already made his way up into the lead. And as they all come into the braking zone, Damien goes for a move, but it's a very late move. And it causes a major amount of contact as a result. I think there wasn't the room for it to happen. And we can see that Mihaus drops all the way to the back of the field as they make their way down towards turn 3. And we see R18 immediately going on the return offensive versus Clarence, as we've got the PRT driver there going very errant. I'm not sure what's happened to the PRT driver there as they make their way around through turns 4 and 5, but there's been major contact already at the start of this race and 2 major incidents through turns 1 and 3. As we see, Damien drops down the order to P4, but we've already got Momo up into P3 as they all make their way now into turn number 8. And as they come through the left-hander here and go through in towards turn number 9, we can see that Clarence leading right now. He's held off R18E, but for how long? As we see, Zeno has made his way from what was P8 up to P5. A good start from the Dutchman, and I think the incidents have helped him out somewhat, but now everybody's starting to settle down to an order as we see Zepok here from GTWGP hanging on in P7 for the time being as they all come rip-roaring now down towards turn number 11. And as they make their way down the hill here, Clarence still holding on to his position for the time being. No way through as it currently stands. We'll bring you a replay of what happened at turn 3 very shortly, ladies and gentlemen, but what we can see right now is that Clarence holding on to this lead, but R18 I think just getting himself into the rhythm as they make their way through the double right-hand sequence and up into turn number 16. They go through into 17 under the bridge and now coming up into 18. This is the corner which R18 he's got to get right if he wants to go on the offensive. As we ride on board here with the Australian, he's trying to look for the offensive move, but will he be able to as he comes out of the final pair of corners? He's a bit too far back this time, I reckon. So after one lap, it is KRT's Clarence leading ahead of TXG's R18E, followed by Momo, who's under pressure right now, the RTA driver from GTV's Damien, as they make their way down towards turn 1. It's GTV on the outside, it's Momo on the inside as they make their way into the corner. Momo holds defensively as Zeno in P5, Bobby in P6, then we've got Zepok in P7, then we've got Ipsimo in P8, followed by Lumic in P9, then it's Carlitos in P10, Mihal from KRT in P11, and Zloty from PRT in P12. But looking back up towards our leaders right now, we can see that our top 2 are starting to make the break, but I do think it is the case that Momo right now is trying to hold off the fast charging Damien, and the battling that Clarence is doing versus R18 may be giving at Momo the opportunity to stay within the slipstream of R18 when it really matters as they make their way now through turn number 8 once again. And meanwhile we can see Bobby here in P6, the ART driver, just simply holding firm for the time being, the Amigos Racing Team driver, as he makes his way out of turn number 9 and up into turn 10 as they all come roaring up into the hairpin. We can see Ipsimo, they're getting a little bit apprehensive with the rear of the car coming out of 9, and it was the case he just simply put 2 wheels up onto the curb and then a bit too much of the inside curb, we should say, at turn 9, getting unsettled off the curb and now coming down in to 11 here. Can Ipsimo close up to Zepok? I think it's going to be a long... Oh, goodness me, we have got a GTVE driver into the wall there, and that looks as though that's Damien, who's had the mother of all moments there, coming through what's turn 11 and into 12, and he has got engine damage. Damien has got engine damage, and that is going to hurt him massively as he makes his way back onto the circuit right now. And what happened to Damien? Well, we're not able to see what's happened to Damien, but I think he's going to, I reckon he's gone wide out of 11 and then run onto the entry curb and onto the grass into 12. But with that, and now we can see that Clarence is currently leading. He's opened up a gap of 0.8 of a second as R18E is now behind him still, but falling back a little bit. And Momo, how Momo will be pleased that he doesn't have the GTVE driver putting more and more pressure on him right now as he makes his way through 2 and up into 3. But that's a disastrous start for a number of drivers, particularly GTV's Damien and also both PRT and KRT, as we see Zeno here, who's up into P4. I think this has been an unexpected P4 for the ART driver, but you can imagine his mind right now. He's probably smiling from ear to ear and thinking to himself, okay, just keep it still. Oh, goodness me, Zepok there looking for a late move into turn 6. Now, we are expecting moves to be made into turns 1, 3, 6, and also 10, perhaps even into 11. And you can see that right now, Zepok looking for a move here as we ride on board with the Frenchman. He's trying to get a little bit aggressive versus Bobby, trying to unsettle Bobby and overtake an opportunity coming up into turn 10 if he's close enough, but he's not close enough to go for the move here. He has to tuck in behind, but you can see Zepok really pushing the limits in terms of the grip that's available as he makes his way out of turn 10 and down the hill towards 11, building up the speed once again, but not able to go on the offensive as he looks to go into turn 11. And this is where we believe Damien went wide over the entry curb into turn 12 and put himself into the wall by taking a wheel onto the grass. But we can see here Zepok really struggling coming out of 12, and Bobby able to carry so much more momentum in the run up the hill in sector 3 as they all make their way on through once again here. But you can see that Bobby is starting to fall backwards off the back of Zeno here, and I think this is giving Zeno time and a little bit of breathing room as they make their way through turn number 18. Now, meanwhile, up front, Clarence is continuing to break away here as the leader. It's now onto lap number 4. We're halfway through race 1, and we can see that Clarence doing a good job of just keeping himself safe, not having to work too hard as he makes his way down towards 1 once again. Meanwhile, behind him, R18E just tucking in, and I think focusing more now on finishing in P2 and getting a good result rather than pushing hard after the Polishman, as we see behind Momo in a similar situation, and the same for Zeno. But meanwhile, Bobby, well, if we look back from Bobby's car here, and you can see he's in that situation where the Briton right now is under that pressure, and you can see once again the GTWGP driver Zepok just simply able to get close under braking, but he's not able to make a move. He seems to have this ability. He needs more time, and he looks for it again there. And I think it's the case that Bobby's got to be careful now, because Zepok may, on the last lap, look to make a lunge into that hairpin. It's the case that Bobby's leaving the door open, but you should naturally leave the door open there if you're taking the qualifying line, because you want to go from outside to inside into the hairpin. But of course, that invites drivers to make a move on the inside, and that is what we're seeing. Meanwhile, as we ride on board here with the Frenchman and Zepok and look back, we can see Ibsimo here, having got up to P7 with the incident with Damien earlier. Damien going into the wall out of turn 11 into 12. We can see Ibsimo now trying to peek his nose up the inside, coming out of the turn 10 hairpin, and as they make their way down towards 11, no changes at this point in time, but it is the case that Ibsimo looking for that move and is looking very dangerous indeed. And behind, do remember, we do have Michal right now, the KRT driver, who is absolutely flying. He's the fastest man on circuit, and he's almost closed up. He's got 3.5 seconds to close up to Lumic, who's in P8 and just following Ibsimo around right now, and we can see here, it looks as though Zepok is struggling for exit out for 16, and into 17 he goes, and up to 18, and it looks as though Zepok here may be under pressure come the final lap. He doesn't seem to have enough pace right now, and I think it's the case that Bobby's now being given the grace and being able to run away with things as they make their way onto lap number 5, penultimate lap, and if Simo's looking for the move here now, will the Italian go for it into 1? He's got a lot of momentum here. He could go for it. We'll see him move to the inside, and if Simo on the inside, Zepok on the outside. Zepok not defending it hard. He's letting Simo take it, but remember now they've got a long run down from 1 to 3, and it'll be the case that Zepok will look to come back at Simo as they make their way down towards the right-hander of turn 3. Heavy braking zone coming up. Into third gear they both go, and Ibsimo holds up, but he goes a little bit wide. He's up onto the gravel, and Ibsimo with one mistake drops all the progress he's gained as he drops down to P8 right now, and he'll be kicking himself for that one as Bobby will now have a bit more pressure from Zepok, who goes very heavy under braking into the hairpin there, lock up on the brakes. Meanwhile, up front, I can tell you that KRT's Clarence right now is being reeled back in by THG's R18E as they make their way up towards turn number 10. Once again here, the Australian, I think, has now got himself back into a bit of a groove, or perhaps it was always there and he was just hoping Clarence would perhaps push himself a bit too hard. We'll have to wait and see as they make their way down towards turn number 11, but we are expecting the leaders to come together, and don't rule out Momo here, the RTA driver who's been looming behind these two for some time. I think what Momo's doing, he's waiting to see if the top two calls a battle one another and look to pick up a place, or perhaps even both places, and sneak off with the win come the final lap. But you'd have to imagine that right now our top three are getting ever closer, and Clarence really struggling there through the run out of 15 into 16, then over the hill to 17, and I think it could be the case right now that R18 may be looking quite threatening on the final lap. The gap between the two of them is almost under 2 tenths as they emerge from 18 here, and Clarence has had a really bad run out of the corner, and as they make, oh goodness me, an R18 there with Snap Oversteer on the exit of 19. He's compromised the move, he's lost the momentum, and this is going to buy Clarence time. Now they've still got a bit of a run down towards 3 to consider here, but I think if R18 was going to go for the move, he needed that momentum, and he's lost it as they make their way down towards turn number 3. Now can he look for a move into 6 or into 10? That's the big question here, as we see Momo just continuing to look behind these guys. I don't think it's going to happen right now, but what I can tell you, these three making their way through. We've got Michal into P8 as Simo's fallen behind him, but there's no real other battles on circuit other than between our top 3 right now, and we will wait to see how it all plays out between them as they make their way down towards what is turn number 8, and as they come through a left-hander here, it's the R18 THG machine as he looks to try and make a move with a lead, but can he do it? I think he's too far back here, ladies and gentlemen, as we see Zeno there having a rare little moment coming through turn 8 with a bit of oversteer and then understeer on the exit and struggling. Zeno here could make a potential mistake, and let's hope he doesn't, of course, because he's done very well to come home P4 at this rate, as we see our top 3 now make their way down towards 11, and it looks so Momo's just continuing to loom there, but he's not doing anything about it. And I think all 3 of them, well, particularly it's the case that Momo is looking to just bring home that P3. But R18 and Clarence, well, who is going to be on the front row? And who's going to be the winner? Well, they've only got a couple more corners to go here, and it looks like Clarence has got this one nailed to the cross as they make their way through 17. And as they come up towards 18, here we see Clarence having a bit of a pull run out the corner. Our 18's looking for it, but I don't think he's got enough momentum here as they come out the final corner. They come out of 19, and as they come to the checkered flag, it is going to be KRT's Clarence who takes the win in race 1 ahead of THG's R18 and RTA's Momo 87. P4 is going to go to ART's Zeno, and then it will be KSZR's Lumic who comes home in P5 ahead of Bobby, GTP Zpox, and also Mihal from KRT. If Simon comes home in P9, then we've got GTMX's Carlitos in P10 as he makes his way out of the final pair of corners here and has a little bit of run off there on the apex to turn 19. He crosses the line, does the Mexican, and then we have in P11, after a disastrous start, it will be Zloty from PRT who makes his way across the line here, having burned a small penalty, and then it will be Damien 92, the GTB driver, that disastrous moment at turn 12 on lap number 2. He crosses line P12. That completes our order, ladies and gentlemen. Congratulations to all of our drivers, but a special congratulations to the Polishman of Clarence from KRT. That was race number 1, ladies and gentlemen, and a brilliant way to kick off our proceedings for tonight. Here are the race results subject to any stewards' inquiries. I think there may be some questions about the instance on lap 1 at turns 1 and 3, but KRT Clarence taking home the win in the end by 0.4 of a second over THG's R18E, and Momo 87 round off the podium for RTA there, the Belgian, only a second off our leader. Our top 5 being complemented with Zeno from ART and Lumic from KSZR, and then the rest of our field went as follows. A Bobby RAA representing ART, Zpox from GTWGP, it was then Mihal from KRT in P8, Ipsimo 91 from CBR in P9 or INCR, and then it round off our top 10 was Carlitos from GTMX, and then outside of the top 10 we had Zloty from PRT and Damien from GTBE. The fastest lap being set by Mihal from KRT on lap number 2 of 38.214. But that is our first race of the evening, and we can see there a little bit of a question for some of our drivers as to what happened. We are going to have a very brief interval between the two races, so as a result that gives us a good amount of time just to enter the race results, the provisional race results, into our spreadsheet tracker, which of course is not on screen, but we have off screen, and this is to enable us to check how our drivers are doing over the course of the proceedings tonight. And then we can talk a little bit more about that, particularly in the mid-round break, but also come the last race in particular, and talk about who is looking primed to get the maximum points in this group. But as we currently see there, a good performance from Clarence, and indeed R18 having a bit of a poor start, and Clarence for having the best of all the starts. They're absolutely flying off the start line and nailing the launch. Now, we will talk a little bit about the launch in these cars, and one of the things about these cars in particular, the Lexus RCFs in the GT500 category, the 2016 car, is these cars have a turbo. Now, what this means is when these cars are launched, you have to have the car in the RPM band for the turbo to launch it successfully. But of course, put the revs too high, and you're not just going to get the turbo, you're going to get an uncontrollable turbo that wants to kill you as a driver, in terms of the car will be all over the road. And that is the challenge, and it would seem that Clarence was able to nail that start and know exactly where the turbo band needed to be balanced at all times. But outside that, of course, there was also the consideration of the fact that we saw the majority of our drivers up the front seem to just get caught out by Clarence, and Clarence going around the outside, and Damien with a very bold move up the inside into turn 1, which I think might have disrupted the order a little bit as well, and may have upset a couple of drivers there. But of course, that's for the stewards to sort out. That's not for us to think about. We are just the observer at the end of the day as we now get ready for race number 2. We've only got a couple of minutes before we get underway, but so far, good racing, and we can see that in the chat. A good number of you enjoying the racing so far. And let's just say hello to some newcomers in the chat here who have dropped in messages. We can see there we have also got Enjoy, who is supporting KRT. We've also got KRT's the Dr. R10 Gaucho, who has joined us and has said best commentator ever. Well, I do appreciate the compliment there, Gaucho. Just trying to do my best. We've also got Zig Chical's Finest, who's saying hello, Paul, and go Chloe Mihal. And well, that's great to hear that he's supporting Mihal, of course, the driver from Team KRT, the Polishman. We've also got Enjoy there supporting KRT. We've got Dachu. We've also got their Colster from ART saying Clarence is absolutely flying. We've got Adamus23 saying hello and supporting Clarence. We have also there got, by the looks of things, well, I think that's everybody. If I haven't called you out, I do apologise, but it's good to see you all tuning in and enjoying the racing so far. And I think now that we move on to race number 2, reverse grid, a feature race of course, 17 laps rather than 6. What can we take from race 1? Well, we saw how critical the race start was in terms of nailing the launch procedure, and Clarence demonstrated that. That was how he was able to get from what was the second row all the way up into lead and then hold on to lead. What we also saw, particularly in the case of what was R18E, was the difficulty in coming back when you're behind a driver who you might have a bit of a pace advantage against, but you have that difficulty in the fact you're running in the dirty air of the driver in front of you, and therefore you lose that front downforce. Now, these Super GT cars, they are quite heavily dependent on their downforce. It is the case that they rely on it to give them a good amount of the grip, the aerodynamic grip through the corners, particularly in the final sector. But what we did see R18 doing towards the end, and I don't know if anybody else noticed this, particularly in the final corners from 15 through to 18, he was starting to take different lines compared to Clarence. And particularly in 18, what R18 was doing, he was trying to take a line where he initially went a little bit deeper or tighter to the apex. He did the opposite of whatever Clarence did to give himself a bit of clear air and try to hold a bit more apex speed. And I think that's what R18 was experimenting at, and I think he's getting ready for the fact he's going to have to make a lot of passes in the next race. We've got a minute to go, of course, until race number 2. And of course, what this race now being a strategy race in terms of we have that fuel consumption and that tyre wear that will really impact the drivers, I suspect here strategy is going to be very important, because you can imagine the pit time loss at Autopolis, if we are correct in our understanding for a tyre change, is somewhere in the region of about 16 to 18 seconds. We're not 100% on that, but it does mean that if you're able to pit one lap earlier than your opponent, you can get an undercut and fresher tyres. Alternatively, if you stay out long and realise your opponent's come out in traffic, you may benefit from the fact you've simply overcut them, or what we just used to call in motorsport as going along. But everybody right now getting ready to race. Well, I do think the pit stop is going to be critical here, and drivers coming out in clear air will make or break their race or their chance at good points. Remember, it will be reverse grid as we get the countdown. It is time for race number 2, ladies and gentlemen. 17 more laps of the circuit. Who's going to be the winner? Let's find out. So as we pan down to the grid for race number 2, we can see it's GTB's Damien lining up on pole. Alongside him is PRT's Lottie. Behind them, we've got GTMX's Carlitos and CBR Ibs Simon 91 from INCR. But what about further back? What can Clarence and R18 do from the back row of the grid? And it's lights out and away we go for race 2 as all of our drivers get off to a reasonable start here. And we can see once again R18 with the mother of all starts. He's coming roaring on the left hand side of your picture down towards turn 1. But he's being blocked by Bobby as they make their way into the opening corner here. And we can see all of our drivers trying to settle into some sort of pack as they make their way through turn 1. A good start from everyone, a safe start from everyone as they make their way down towards turn 3. And we can see it's the case that our top 5 already settling down. But as we look further down the pack, we can see that it's Zeno there going for the move on Lumic as they come through 3. And it's a case that Zeno's gotten the move done, and Lumic out of position now. He's got to deal with both Mahal and Momo trying to come through. Momo's on the inside through 4 and 5, but they'll place him on the outside into 6, into the hairpin. And we can see Momo trying to go all the way around the outside here, but there's no grip available. There's not enough rubber laid down the circuit on the outside there to take that line, but he's going to make it work here as Momo as he goes round into 8 on the inside. And Momo there with an absolutely brave run, but we see Mihal coming back at him shortly. Damien's still leading, and Kalitas looks at a move here on Zloty into turn 10, and looks like Z-Pox is trying to find his way through as well, and Zloty losing the momentum being on the outside on the exit of the hairpin, and it's a 2-for-1 special that goes in the favour of the Mexican and the Frenchman as they make their way down into 11. That's our top 4, and then we can see that R18's already up into P6 with a tremendous start. The THG driver has absolutely flown here, and the most important thing, of course, he's got past Clarence, and well, Kira Clarence, who seem to have his number as they make their way up the hill through turns 14 and 15. And as they come on through here, we can see that Zeno has held on to P8, Lumic in P9, and we've got Momo in P10. And Momo has held on for the time being as they all make their way up towards turn number 18 and through it. But meanwhile, as they come out of the final corner then to complete the opening lap, it is GTFusi's Damien leading at the moment by 1.8 seconds ahead of Carlitos in P2. Then we've got Zepok in P3, followed by Zloty in P4, who's got Bobby and T18 and R18 on the offensive here as they make their way down towards turn 1. We see Zloty going defensive. We can also see R18 looking for the move, but he's not close enough. Then we've got Ibsimo in P7. He's got Zeno looking for the move on the inside. Zeno attempting the move, but it didn't pull off. Then we have got what is Lumic in P9, followed by Momo in P10. Then we have got Mihao in P11, followed by Clarence in P12, rounding off our order for the time being as they all make their way down and through turn 3 once again here. And I think a good number of drivers may be thinking about the more strategic aspect here in terms of fuel saving and tyre saving, as we do see it's the case that Zepok right now is creating a little bit of a traffic jam as we ride on board with the Frenchman in P3, the GTWGP driver, as they make their way up into turn number 8 right now. And you can see how the field is getting heavily condensed behind him here, and perhaps Zepok is running an alternate strategy. Perhaps he's doing some heavy fuel saving. Now, this circuit you can fuel save at very well, because particularly the fact that this circuit is so hard to overtake at, you can imagine after you come out this hairpin at turn 10, so long as you get a good run out of 10 down to 11, at this point you can probably put the car in fuel mode 2 and short shift. You do not have to worry about the fact that somebody can look for a move, because there is no way through once you're through turn 11 unless you make a mistake, because you can see the road tapers into a single narrow racing line, and that is what a number of drivers will be looking for here. They will look to hold on to their position and fuel save through sector 3. It's a very good sector to fuel save through as they all make their way up the hill once again, and we can see Zeno looking for the move on Simo here, but again just finding himself tucked in tight behind right now. But you can expect that moves will come off as they come out of 18 and onto the start finish straight out of 19 as they all come on through once again. And no more than Bobby, he's got the pressure of R18 behind him as they all come running around to complete lap 2 of 17. They come across that timing line, and it does look as though the field's getting a bit tighter as we see Lumic under pressure from Momo here. Momo going to the inside, Lumic not defending this one hard. I think Lumic's thinking about the bigger picture on the strategy front here and deciding not to fight it too hard, but we can see that Mihao, they're going a little bit deep on the brakes, getting the double toe coming out of the final corner and onto the straight, and that's giving him the overspeed, and Mihao there with a brief mistake as we can see. Meanwhile, R18 looking for a move. If Simo's still got Zeno pressuring him, but Zeno not able to find a way through the ART driver as they come through turns 4 and 5 and up into 6, and it is the situation right now that nobody able to gain, but you can definitely tell that some tempers are starting to just get frayed slightly. Some of the faster drivers are getting a little bit impatient, and I can imagine in particular that our winner from, our second place man from race number 1, R18, would love to find a way past Bobby, and our winner as well, who's all the way down in last place right now, Clarence, as we see R18 looks at a move on the inside of Bobby into 10. He's gone for it, he saw the opportunity. Of course, this will mean that the two of them sacrifice time to Zloty ahead of them, but I think R18's not going to mind that. He will feel he's got the pace to be able to catch up to the P4 driver as they come through. The Australian gains a position at the expense of Bobby as they make their way through turn at number 12 and up the hill. But meanwhile, further down, we can see Ibsimo now starting to look loomingly large versus Bobby as they make their way through 14 and 15 here. Can we expect the Briton to lose another position shortly? We will find out as they make their way through 17. I think there could be a move on come the straight here. This is looking a little bit dangerous of Bobby as they come on through 18. We ride on board, of course, with the Briton as he comes through the corner here, and you can see I think Bobby is struggling a little bit for the apex speed and the grip on apex as he's making his way now onto the start finish straight. Ibsimo's right there, and Bobby defends the inside. He's going to squeeze Ibsimo, and Ibsimo looks the outside instead, and I think Ibsimo's going to go all the way around here. He's going to make it work, and he does go around the brakes here, and Ibsimo gains the position, and that was very brave to go all the way around the outside. And in the rear view picture, we will have seen that Clarence has made the move on Lumic for P11, doing a similar move into turn 1, but it was the case that Clarence was able to get the move done before the braking zone as they make their way into turn 3, and it looks like Lumic is trying to come back, but there's no way through for the Czechoslovakian versus the Polishman. But meanwhile, our race leader of Damien is just eking out a good lead right now. He's putting the fastest lap of the race of 38.4 on what was lap number 3, I believe, and Carlitos right now in P2. The Mexican does have Zepok closing up to the back of him here, but do keep in mind some of our drivers could be doing some major fuel saving right now and playing the long game rather than looking to make any major moves soon. But speaking about major moves, let's take a look back at R18 start and how he went from P11 to what was right into the mid-pack. So this was right at the start of the race, and watch this, ladies and gentlemen. He nailed the start compared to Zeno in front, and he went round the right, and it was the case. Well, I think Bobby looked to go round, and then Bobby realised, oh no, R18, you're not coming through. You're going to have to wait behind me. There's a little bit of contact, but that was how R18 got himself up into what was effectively P8 come the first corner, and then P7 as Lumic was a little bit on oversteer, and there was some contact between the two of them. But a good start from R18, and now we look back to the live screens and we can see that's the case. Lottie's got that pressure, and Z-Park in fact has got past the Mexican of Carlitos. I think Carlitos made a mistake somewhere because Lottie has got past, and it looks like R18's trying to come through as well as they make their way out of the final corner. And we see it's Lottie who pulls over to the left immediately here. I'm not sure what this is about, ladies and gents, but it does look as though it's the case that the Polish were just doing some weaving on the straight, and I think it might be to try and make sure the drivers behind him do not get the slipstream. If he weaves like that too aggressively, he will be subject to a warning from the stewards. It can be reported as they make their way down through 3 and into 3, I should say, through 2 and into 3. And we can see Azotti defending hard here as the Mexican from GTMX is trying to find a way back through, but he cannot find it for the time being. But Ipsimo in P6 right now, and Bobby. So Ipsimo got the move done versus Bobby, of course, and now it's the case that Zeno is trying to find a way through as well versus his teammate, the two of them from ART, of course, as they make their way out of the turn 6 hairpin and head up into 7 and 8. Now, will they do a switch? That would be the question now. I do think that Zeno may be on team comms right now saying to Bobby, look, I am faster than you, you've got to let me through. But will they agree to it, or will it be a case they've got one of the team principals also in there with them, telling them what to do as they make their way up into turn 10 right now? And we can see that Mihao on the back of Momo, and Momo just not able to find a way through. But it is the case that right now it is our P3 man of Zotti, the PRT driver, who is causing a massive snake train of cars as they make their way out of 11. And we ride on board. Oh, goodness me, and Carlitos there with a major save. And as a result, he's been able to hold the car together. But the Mexican has dropped even more places as he's got dirt on the tyres, and we have lost the Mexican of Carlitos. He has retired the car by the looks of things. I think it's a complete disconnection, but it looks as though he is out of the race, and we are now down to 11 drivers. Well, that is a disaster for Carlitos, as we're just about to take a look back at what happened there, but that is a disaster, and all for going wide at turn 11 into 12, as we can see that it is a disconnection from the GTMX driver, and well, hoping he can get his technical issues fixed for that car and they can get it back out for race number 3. But focusing on the here and now, what I was going to say is that the snake train that Zloty has formed with having passed Carlitos and then just having to simply hold on, you can see that R18 is continuing to rise through the field right now, and if Simo behind him, well, you can see R18 going a little bit deep. They're on lap number 6, and it is worth now talking about the telemetries of our drivers, particularly their fuel and tyre wear, and we can see here that those racing hard tyres on Damien's car in quite a heavy state of wear. But also look at the fuel, he's only got about 20% remaining. Meanwhile behind, and this is what we're saying about the fuel saving, Z-Pot there with almost what is about 35% fuel, more wear on his front tyres. He's got brake bar shifted towards the front and the wear's more heavy on the front, but he's been fuel saving. And for behind, we can see Zloty here has just got under half a tank, about 45%. So I think he's going for the one stop here, as would be say R18 is going for the one stop. Definitely look, he's got 58%. We've got Ipsimo here as well, quite light tyre wear, and then further back we have then got Bobby with some more fuel usage and more heavy tyre wear, trying to do the one stop. We've also got Zeno here on about 45%, and then we have got Momo who's holding off Mihao for the time being on about 40% is Momo, but he's got some quite heavy tyre wear to go with that as well. Mihao there on about 45% fuel and good tyre usage, and then we do have what looks to be Clarence behind him, who has got about 40% fuel but the best tyres of anybody at this point in time, and then last but not least Lumic there with about 35% fuel and some quite heavy tyre wear. So I think we are looking at a situation as Damien's into the pits. Damien from GTV is into the pits. He is doing a two-stop, ladies and gentlemen. So he is the one of our only drivers who will be doing that two-stop strategy, and we will see how it plays out. As we can see behind now, the switch between Zeno and Bobby is occurring, and behind them, Clarence looks at the move. He's not able to find it on Mihao, but we were wondering when Bobby and Zeno were going to make the switch from Team ART, but we can see here that Bobby's under major pressure as they make their way down towards turn 3, and Mihao looks at a move, and he holds on the inside there versus Momo, but it is getting very nip and tuck between these drivers as Momo now is under pressure from Clarence behind, but as everybody in the fuel saving train tries to hold on, we can see there's a massive concertina effect there into turn 6 and contact between P6 back to P9, and ahead Ipsimo is ahead of R18 as they make their way up the hill through turn number 9 right now. But it is the situation where I think some drivers want to increase the pace of the race now, where others want to keep it as is, as we can see R18 having to defend versus Zeno Zeno here, and as R18 got damage on the car, no, he just does not seem to have the pace at this point in the race as he makes his way down towards turn number 10 here, and as they all come roaring down the hill, you can imagine that right now for R18, he will do everything he can to try and hold the positions and stay with Simon ahead of him. He'll want that slipstream to give him some extra fuel saving capacity, but the question is, where did Damien come out after pitting? Well, here is Damien. He is the best part of 20 seconds off our leader, and remember, he has to make one more stop, we believe, so this will be very interesting to see how it plays out in terms of the 2-stop versus the 1-stop. I think the 1-stop is the optimum strategy here, so long as you're not caught up fighting or in traffic, as you see Z-Pot holding on to that lead for the time being, and then we've got PRT Zalotti here in P2, it's Simon P3 still as they all come roaring across turn 19, onto lap number 8 they go. They are now almost at the halfway point of the race. Will it be an odd number of laps? It'll be laps 8 and 9, but we can see here it is the case that our top 5 battling heavy. Bobby having to defend versus Momo here. They come down into turn 1. Momo on the outside trying to go all the way round. Bobby getting a bit of oversteer on the corner entry, and Momo's gone wide as a result of it, and I think it was the case that oversteer there from Bobby just meant he couldn't get the car to stop in time. We'll take a look, but Momo has dropped down the order, and meanwhile it's now Bobby versus Clarence, and Clarence trying to go around the outside into 3 to hold the inside to 4. Clarence is still there, Bobby on the outside, and I think Clarence has been brave enough to make it stick, and he has indeed. He's up into P7 is Clarence here as they make the way through turn 6 and now head up into 7. Clarence is making places, Bobby however is dropping back, and Momo with that disaster there has dropped down to P10. But meanwhile, as this is going on, what I can tell you is that Damien behind, of course, is gaining massively on everyone right now on that 2-stop strategy. And in fact, he has ripped the best part of over the course of the last lap, 3 seconds out of our leader. So could Damien bring a surprise here? That's the big question. As we do see, that's the case that Zeno has gained P4 and Michal as well. And it looks as though R18 is falling down the field like a stone. What happened to R18? We lost the places much earlier on, so we didn't see what happened to R18 in the end, unfortunately, but it looks like R18 has really dropped away compared to the lead pace, as we can see now on lap number 8 as they come through the final sector here. Is a situation well, I think if Simo's had a run off there, everybody's now starting to feel the pinch of the tyre wear, and indeed on those front tyres you've got to be so careful. You have to nurse these tyres around the circuit, and Zeno there with the tyres, and if Simo, well, you can see contact between himself and Michal as they come out the final corner, and both drivers battling furiously as Zipok comes into the pits on lap 8, our race leader, and he'll be going for the undercut, I'm sure, and we can see that Michal being let through there by Simo. I think if Simo's realising that if the KRT driver wants it, he's not going to deny him it and instead tuck him behind. But I do think that right now, the one driver who could be benefiting massively from doing one extra lap on his second stint is the driver who's currently in the pits, and that, of course, is Zipot, who's in, and we can see we've also got Bobby into the pits. So the two of them going for the undercut here as they take on the fuel. Zipot's going to have to put in a bit more fuel than Bobby. It will cost him roughly 2 to 3 more seconds, but I think he will make that up over the race, as right now the rest of our field carries on. They soldier on around the circuit, and we can see that Zotti hold on to lead, but going wide then to 8, and it's now a battle of tyre wear. It's about being used to being on these heavily worn racing hard tyres, which if they didn't offer you any grip when they were fresh, you can imagine right now our drivers will be absolutely swearing furiously at the lack of grip they have, the lack of overall mechanical grip as they make their way through the corners, coming out of turn 10 right now, and they have to literally tiptoe their way around the circuit. And in this final section in particular, these tyres are going to feel horrible. They're going to feel as though they don't even want to go through the corners. You've got to be so sensitive to getting on the throttle right now, because as soon as that turbo kicks in that Lexus, you can imagine that 638 brake horsepower is going to shoot through those rear wheels. What these cars being front engine rear wheel drive, and it will shoot through those rear wheels, and if you haven't got the steering wheel aligned to the centre, you are going to be going off circuit as they make the way through turn number 17 right now. And it is the situation where Zotti is holding on for that time being, but Zeno has really started to build up some pace, and this should be noted that the Dutchman seems to have come alive with the increase in tyre wear, and as a result, as they all make their way into the pits, they all come charging it, and it looks as though R18 is going to go longer. He's going to go an extra lap. Now this, surely what he's thinking about is a long game, as look who's in the rear of your picture, ladies and gentlemen. That's Damien on the 2-stop here. Now remember, he will have to make one more pit stop, but could the Frenchman spring a massive surprise here and then come roaring through the field come the end of the race? He was our leader, of course, before he pitted on the 2-stop. We'll have to wait and see, but right now we're waiting for how all of our drivers come out, and where is our, what is our P8, well, it's not a P8 driver, it's our P3 driver. As Zepot, he comes through and he's come out ahead of everyone, going for the undercut. And we can see Bobby in the rear of the picture is coming out behind the pack as Zeno comes out in P4, the lead of our drivers who've just pitted, and Bobby's up into P8. He's cleared Clarence and Momo, as we can see that Clarence is here in P9, Momo in P10, and then Lumic in P11. So that's how it's played out in the strategy. And it does look as though the person who's gained the most is the Frenchman Zepot right now, who by going in one lap earlier has given himself a breathing room of about 3.5 seconds. Now, of course, it will mean come the final lap, he will have 1 lap older tyres. But in the relative scheme of things, I do not think that's going to hurt him too much, for the simple reason that everybody's going to be feeling the pinch of the tyre where once these tyres have gone through approximately 6 to 7 laps. So I think Zepot here may have played the strategy very well. And of course, R18 has yet to pit. And if we look at those tyres and the fuel, well, R18's front tyres are just gone. That front left in particular, there's nothing left of it. And well, I think he's got to pit here. He's going for the fresher tyres come the end of the race, but I think he's pushed this one a bit too far. We'll have to wait to see it, as Damien, of course, on that 2-stop is flying right now, but for how long? He set the fastest out of 37.9 on the fresher tyres and lower fuel, but can Damien bring this one home with a surprise win? I doubt it, as R18's into the pits, and this will release Zepot into the lead, we believe. As we can see here, ART Zeno in P4 right now. He's holding up the rest of the field here behind him with Simo, Zloty, Mihal, and then we've got Bobby, who's a bit further back, 1.7 seconds off the chasing pack for P4, as they all make their way up into and out of turn 18 as they come rip-roaring through once again. But meanwhile, as Damien has already come down into turn 3, we can see it's the case that Zepot has now reclaimed P2, and we believe he is going to be our leader once Damien has pitted. Where does R18 come out in all of this? Well, R18 has come out there in P7, so he hasn't really gained too much in terms of track position. But what I can tell you, and this is the good thing for R18, he's bought himself approximately 1.4 seconds of clear air ahead of him, and that means he does have 1 lap to get these tyres switched on before he really starts to need to close in behind the guys up front, and he has that clear air to play with. So keep an eye out for R18. He may try and now set a fastest lap in order to get himself closer to the battle for what is effectively P2 out on circuit once Damien pits. As we can see, he hasn't got the pressure of Bobby behind him. I think the THG driver here has played this well, but he's got a lot of overtaking now to do out on circuit as he makes his way through turn number 8. Meanwhile, behind him, P9 Clarence here with a very difficult situation to deal with, where he's got to try and find his way past Bobby, but he is getting a lot of momentum here as Clarence, and could he be looking to move into 10? He is thinking about it. He's going to go for it, and it's a late move, and there's contact between himself and Bobby. Bobby turning in there, but I do think it was the case that Clarence decided to go for the move very late and didn't signal the move, and I think Bobby as a result would say that it was the case that Clarence decided about it way too late in the day into the braking zone. But of course the stewards will take a look at that one, as meanwhile our race leader, well, you have to imagine that when Damien pits, he's trying to eke out as much of a gap as he can right now, and how much of a gap can he make? That's the question. As we see, Zepot is really on course right now to hold on to an impressive advantage of 2.9 seconds. As we see here, it's the situation where RT Zeno in P3, and then we've got Zloty in P4 right now as he makes his way through turn number 18 into 19 he goes. And I think Zeno has got ahead of Zloty on this lap. We haven't seen where it's happened, but what we can tell you is that the Polishman right now is in a bit of a uphill battle. As we look behind, we ride on board with Zloty, and as he makes his way down into turn 1, it's a situation with Simo looking to go defensive versus Mihal here, and I think the two Polish drivers trying to work out something to keep the Italian at bay and cause him to drop another place as they make their way through 2 and up into 3. And as they come charging down, it is the case that we can see that if Simo under that pressure from Mihal, and Mihal not able to find the move. He was too far back into the braking zone for 3, but he was trying to feint and move into the corner as they make their way through 4 and 5. And if Simo up on the raised curb there at 5, that's going to cost him some momentum and lateral grip as they make their way out of 6 now and head around to 7 and 8. Behind them, R18 is trying to close up, but he's not closing up at a tremendous rate right now. In fact, that gap has stabilised at 1.5 seconds. So I think R18 just does not have enough to close up to these guys as they make their way up towards the hairpin of turn number 10. And as they do so here, it's the case that Zeno has Zloty all over the back of him. Can the ART driver hold on as they make their way on down? I'm not 100% sure right now how long it's going to be before Zeno feels for more pressure as they come through 11 once again here. Now, meanwhile, as they make their way on through, through. I can tell you that further down the order is Lumic in last place at the moment, and it is not a happy race for Lumic, and I think he's going to have to use this one as a bit of a character builder for the races ahead. But we can see Damien into the pits once again here, and Zpot, where's our P2 man? He's already making his way through turn 17, so I think Damien, if we do a bit of rough math, I think Damien's going to come out in roughly the region of Mihao or R18, and if that's the case, it is going to be an incredible battle to the end. We will wait and see. As we see Zeno coming through right now in P3, we can see it's the case that we've got Zloty here in what is P3 trying to hold on. He's got Ipsimo trying to come behind him, and all these guys snaking through. As we see, that's Mihao going for the move versus Ipsimo into turn 1, but he's not close enough. We've then got R18 in P6, Clarence P7, and here's where Damien has come out on the 2 stop, so it hasn't worked to get him right up there. But remember now, Damien has only 5 laps of fuel and much fresher tyres. He can kill those tyres to go racing. Let's see what Damien can do here, but expected to be the fastest man on the circuit. He has got 7.6 seconds to close down to the leader, and he has got to fly now. He's got to find overtakes left, right and centre. Can he do it at the circuit where it's difficult to overtake? We'll have to wait and see. I reckon he could find his way onto the podium if he gets it right. But as they all make their way round right now, we can see that Zpot really falling off the pace, really starting to struggle. That last lap from Zpot, I should point out, was a 40.9, whereas for Zeno, if an ART, it was a 39.8. It is the case that Zpot is dropping right now. His pace is not good enough to break away and hold on to that breakaway. So I think it is the case that right now you could be looking at a late charge from Zeno, Zloty, also Ipsimo and Mihao, as we see that R18 is a little bit behind this pack, and then we have got Clarence who's trying to find a way back in as Damien's all over the back of him, but he's caught Clarence at the worst possible time. It's through the handling sector, and this is of course where he'll need to get as close as possible, but he won't be able to make a move. As meanwhile our race leader is in a horrible situation right now. You're right on board with Zpot from GTWGP as he makes his way into turn 18 as they come over. He's gone wide and Zeno's looking for the move. He's going to try and make it early here, and there's contact between the two of them, and it does mean that Zeno's not going to be able to tuck in immediately for the slipstream down to 1, and this gives Zpot time to go defensive if he wants it. We're going to wait to see here. This is for the lead, and Zeno's on the inside, Zpot on the outside. Into the braking zone they go, and I think it's the case that Zeno's got the brakes there, as we see Zloty having to defend versus Ipsimo once again as they make their way through 2, and now it's that case that Ipsimo's under the offensive from Mihao. The KRT driver comes through on the inside into P4 up to turn 3, and Ipsimo right now will have to wait and play the long game here versus the 2 Polishmen as they go through 4 and 5, and R18 is creeping up behind them. Meanwhile, Clarence, he's got Damien all over the back of him, but Damien is not able to find a way through, and this is critical for Damien right now. He is losing time by being stuck behind Clarence. He's got to find a way through. He hasn't got time. He does not need to be behind the driver right now, and you can see he's got the grip. He's going to go for the move for 8 already, and Damien gains 1 place. Clarence on his inside here as they come through 9, a bit of door-to-door as they come in towards the hairpin, and we can see that Damien does make the move stick here. He makes sure that Clarence is well wide of the racing line here as they make their way down, and meanwhile we can see that Zpot is dropping down the order as Zloty goes around the outside into 11. A brave move from Zloty as they make their way on through 12, and it's the case that Mihao is the next driver to try and go on the offensive as Zpot goes defensive into 13. He's really struggling, and Mihao is going to go too wide through 14 and 15 as they come up through the double right-hander, and we can see that Zpot is just dropping. Ipsimo now is trying to go around the outside into 17. Goodness me, and Ipsimo's going to make this work here. He's going to go through and take the inside into 18, and also R18's coming through as well as they make their way on through. This is crazy stuff. You do not normally see this through the 3rd sector, but Zpot is just dropping away, and I'm wondering if he's got a problem with fuel. No, it's just the tyres. The tyres can't hold on anymore, and Zpot cannot make the car work as a result. So going 1 lap sooner in terms of the pit stop has not worked out for the Frenchman. As we can see now, Damien's going to come on through, and he's not going to defend this, surely. No, he's just going to let Damien through. In no way is he going to be able to hold Damien back with that level of tyre wear versus what Damien's got on those wheels as they make their way through 3 and into 4 here, and you can see that Damien is on a charge as they make their way through, but he's only got 2.5 laps to go. He's got 4 seconds to cover. That's the distance between himself and the leader, but between himself and the leader he has got 4 cars who all want position, and I think that Damien's going to have to do something magical here here. He's going to have to make an overtake into places where you don't overtake at Autopolis. He starts off, of course, with a run up towards turn 10. He's going to look to the inside versus R18. R18 hasn't got an answer. Damien's up into P5. We think R18's looking for the cutback, but there's not enough momentum or space today to do it as they make their way down towards 11. And now he heads after what is Ipsimo for P4 as they come charging down the hill. Meanwhile, further back, we can see that it is the case that Zeepot has now got Clarence away with the vacuum as they come through 11, and the Polishman will now look for an opportunity to come up against the Frenchman, but can he find a way through? I think he's going to have to wait until 18 in the fly up towards 1 on lap number 16 to do it. You can see Clarence has got so much more confidence in the grip right now, despite the two of them only being separated in terms of tyre age by a lap, and as they make their way through 17 up into 18, Clarence going to look to the outside here into 18. He's going to look for the outside to inside line. He's going to go for a cutback, and as a result get the momentum here, and Clarence is making the move here. He's going to build up the momentum and look for it down the inside, and immediately Zeepot into the pits. He hasn't got the tyres to go to the end, so Zeepot taking the safety stop. But meanwhile, we can see Ipsimo being overtaken by Damien here into turn 1. Damien on the 2-stop, of course, compared to everyone else in the 1-stop. Damien's now up into P4. He's got 2 laps to go here. He's got 3 more drivers between him and the race win. Can he do it? Those tyres, of course, will now be starting to pinch a little bit, but Damien's got the grip compared to everyone else as he comes through 4 and 5 here. This is going to be something else as we see that we've got Zloty from PRT. Oh, goodness me, there's contact there. Damien with a contact on what's Mihal, and what was a fast charge has now turned into a fast disaster as he drops down the field, and there is no damage to the car, but Damien's charge is over. What happened there? Riding on board here as he was making his way down. So what we're going to see is coming down into turn 3. So this was absolutely fine. This was moments ago. And as he was coming through 3 into 4, we can see Mihal there and also Zloty struggling for the break. And he's just gone for the move way too aggressively there down into 4 by looks of things. There was no way he was going to make that move work without contact. And that is what has hit Damien hard there. In the fact, just a bit too adventurous. I think he will realise now with what we have only got the best part of 1 lap remaining after this final sector. I think Damien will know the 2-stop can work, but he's got to be smarter in terms of where he goes for those moves, because that was too far back and it was only going to end up one way. As we see R18 here has just made the move for P3. I think Mihal's gone wide there coming out of turn at number 17. We'll take a look back shortly, but on to the final lap they come, and it looks as though here ART Zeno is going to be comfortably onto that final lap. He's got a 3.4 second gap. Can he bring it home, or will there be another spin in the tail? And speaking about spins in the tail, let's see what happened to our P4 man only moments ago. So this was moments ago. Mihal from KRT as he's coming up the hill here. We ride on board, and you can see how unsteady that car is with the tyre wear. And as he made his way through 15, coming up the hill into 16, does he just simply, the rear end snaps on him and he had to get the car stopped. And that's brilliant control there from Mihal to stop the car in that fashion. To be fair, whether he's made mistakes or not, you can say one mistake he has not made is in his ability to stop the car when it's all gone wrong. And Mihal there really showing that car control. I think he may play cricket in his spare time, given how well he caught that. As we can see, he makes his way through turn at number 8 right now and really struggling for grip. Indeed, all of our drivers on that 1 stop are really struggling for the grip, as we see Zloty right now under that pressure from R18. And can R18 suddenly make his way back into P2 on the final lap? He's running out of time of day to do it. He's only got the best part of what is 9 more corners to go, coming down towards 11 now. And as they come roaring down, you can see he's tucked in behind, but he's not able to find an overtaking move as they come roaring down. Although Zloty goes deep, R18 looks to move on the inside, and the Australians up into P2. It was a mistake from the Polishman, which gave him the opportunity as they come up the hill and now towards turn number 16. But meanwhile, speaking of the driver who's already made it through 16 and 17, and he's only got 2 more corners to go, he's gradually ascended through the field, and he has shown the ability to command the tyre wear on the 1-stop strategy. And as he makes his way out the final corner, it is Zeno from Team ART, the Dutchman, who takes the win in race number 2. 3.4 seconds clear of THG's R18E. Next, Zloty from PRT in P3, Mihal from KRT in P4, Clarence from KRT P5, Ipsimo from CBR and CR in P6. We've got Damien P7, Morrow P8. Then we have got Zeepot in P9 for GTWGP. The Frenchman having a difficult race, dropping all the way down the order. We've got Lumic who comes across the line in P10. And then it will be the case, last but not least, and we're not sure what happened to Bobby, but Bobby is going to be coming home for ART, last of our drivers who were able to finish the race. It was the case we also had the retirement of the GTMX driver Carlitos, but Bobby P11, congratulations to all of our drivers, but a special congratulations to our winner, the Dutchman of ART's Zeno. What a brilliant race number 2. And indeed, if you wanted the ante to be upped from race number 1, our drivers definitely delivered. But here are the race results subject to any stewards' inquiries. And again, I think there are going to be some investigations after the race. But ART Zeno taking the win in the end by 3.4 seconds over THG's R18. And the podium being rounded off by PRT's Zloty there, with a race time which was 4.4 seconds off our leader. The top 5 being wrapped up by Michal from KRT and Clarence from KRT. The KRT team putting in a fantastic performance in race number 2, it should be said. And then we have Ipsimo91 from CBR INCR in P6, Damien from GTB in P7, Momo87 in P8 from RTA, and it's GTWGP's Zepot there, who, having controlled the lead for so long, just could not make the tyres last and dropped all the way from the lead to P9, having to make that extra stop. Then Lumic in P10, Bobby from ART in P11, I should say Lumic from KSZR, and then not completing the race but classified as P12 will beat GTMX's Carlitos. 12 drivers able to take part in the race, 11 finishers, and the fastest lap being on the last lap as set by Zepot there, a 1:37.810 on low fuel and very fresh tyres on lap 17. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are now due a 10-minute break. So we are going to be taking a brief pause in the build-up to the next race as we do get the switch over on the lobby. So we will, when we come back, be going qualifying in approximately 10 minutes' time. So I suspect at what is 30 minutes past the hour there, based on the timer in the top right corner of your screen, so that'll be 21:30. It will be qualifying for 6 minutes to determine the grid order for race number 3, and then we'll be getting underway with the second half of racing for tonight. But I'm going to take a brief breather. I will be back at 6 minutes past the hour, so in 4 minutes' time for the build-up to the second half of tonight. But until then, don't go anywhere. You won't want to miss it. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back in the build-up to the second half of tonight's proceedings. And I should clarify that we'll be getting underway with qualifying session 2 at what is 21:32 British Summer Time, so that is 32 minutes past 9 British Summer Time or UTC +1. Now, for those of you who've missed the story of the racing in Lobby F or Group F so far tonight, this is split number 6, of course, out of our 20 or so splits. It is the case that so far in the opening sprint and the opening feature race, we have had one driver who has proven to be perhaps the best of the group so far. He's yet to win a race over the course of tonight's proceedings, but he has been very consistent. That is THG's R18 with 2 second place finishes, putting him well out front in terms of performances. However, we have had a driver who seems to have shown a knack for strategy and tyre management, and that is ART Zeno, who is currently P2 overall according to the proceedings tonight. Then in P3 as it currently stands, we have KRT's Clarence, who with the win in race 1 was only able to pick up a P5 in race number 2, but we'll have to wait and see how it plays out. But it's been a very tight field, it's been a very tense field, and our biggest talking point really of the opening 2 races would have to be not just the difficulty to overtake being shown to be wrong. We've seen some very brilliant overtakes and some very daring overtakes, particularly in the run through turns 12 through to 15, but also the offset between the 2-stop and the 1-stop. GTB's Damien 92 showing that the 2-stop actually, if you have a commanding lead at the start of the race, if you're able to get into some clear air and pull distance to the rest of the field, the 2-stop can work. But of course, Damien with the poor attempt at the move into the hairpin on the second race towards the end, it did not work out, and as a result that cost him the time and position. So it does mean that we have to look out for potential 2-stoppers now in what is race number 4. But let's take you through the proceedings for the rest of tonight then. So at 21:32, so in just under 4 minutes time, we will have our second qualifying session, which will be 6 minutes rather than the standard 15. Now you're probably wondering, why a 6-minute qualifying session? What does that do? What does that matter? Why don't we have a 15-minute one? Well, in a 15-minute qualifying session with a lap time that's just over 1.5 minutes, if you do some basic math, you're looking at approximately somewhere in the region of what is 9 to 10 qualifying laps, or attempts at qualifying laps. Half that time, and you take it down to at least 5 laps. Cut a bit more of that time away with 6 minutes. You're only looking at approximately 3 proper qualifying laps. And what that does, that puts pressure on you as a driver to be able to set a good lap time. Now, I can tell you from personal experience, having raced as a guest of honour from GTBE in round number 2 of this season, where we were in the Fittipaldi EF7 machines at what was Interlagos, I'm someone who absolutely loves to have a lot of time for qualifying because it gives me time to follow a lap and find the fastest possible lap. I am not a driver who can pick up lap time immediately. Those 6-minute qualifying sessions, you have to find that lap time immediately. It's not going to come down to you towards the end. It's not going to suddenly be revealed to you after 10 minutes that this is the line you take. Plus, there's also less rubber down the circuit, which means there's less natural grip available in the circuit. And that's why we could see a complete change up in our qualifying order come the start of race number 3. So come the end of qualifying 2, which determines our grid order for race number 3, we may see somebody entirely different other than what is R18 taking pole. Remember, R18 took pole by 4/10 of a second in the end. In fact, I think it was almost 5/10 of a second in the first qualifying session, and that was with 3 laps that got successively better. He took the lead in qualifying by 3/10 after his first qualifying lap and then continued to improve it as time went on. So we'll wait and see there, but our prediction would be that R18 is due another pole in what is the second qualifying session. Race number 3 will follow, and that will be another 6-lap sprint. And then we will follow that on with the reverse grid order for the 17-lap feature. That is race number 4, much like what you saw in race number 2. There will be no differences between the way the sprint runs in race 3 compared to race 1, and the same between the features of races 2 and 4. They are the same, and they've got the same setup. So we will wait and see what is going to happen. But if anything has been proven so far, is that this has been very unpredictable. We can expect even more unpredictable racing, and there's some fantastic racing ahead. Now let's check in with you guys and girls in the chat to see how you're all doing after the first half tonight. And we can see we've also got some new individuals to say hello to. We have got Insane Ghost there, who is cheering on KRT. He says KRT are on fire, and that's great to see. We've also got Herbie there saying, well, I agree with that. And he's referring to Adamus23's comments in the YouTube chat with regards to Mihal's performance and driving, and that's great to hear. And we can also see here we've got Christoph Kozlowski saying the case that Klohi the man, well, that's Mihal, of course, he's referring to. And again, I must admit, my natural Polish is not very good, as you can probably all guess, ladies and gentlemen. British born and raised, so my only language I really speak is English. So if I'm pronouncing things wrong, feel free to have a laugh at my expense. And if I'm completely butchering something, I hope you do forgive me. I'll try and learn for next time. But we've now got less than a minute to go until we get underway with our qualified session, our second qualified session, that 6-minute session. Everybody parked up right now in the pits waiting to go. It does not appear to be the case that we are going to be getting the return of the Mexican driver of what was GTMX's Carlitos, so we may have lost another driver. We already did lose, of course, RTA's Fluffy Butt build up towards the night. It was the case that they had technical issues and were not able to attend, and we do apologise for hearing that, of course, and we do wish them all the very best indeed to all of our drivers. It's a sad day when we hear that our drivers are not able to make the races, and of course the GTFusiOn World Championship is not what it is without all of its drivers and teams taking part, and that is the biggest thing for all our drivers. But right now, as we get ready to go racing once again here, everybody will be celebrating at the prospect of being able to take to the circuit. And we'll see Momo there in particular coming out of the pits. And of course our race steward and trackside steward and our host of what is Clarence there, telling everybody to get ready as we're about to get underway with Qualified 2. And there is the countdown, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for a 6-minute shootout. Who is going to be on pole? Let's find out. So as we said earlier, it is the case now where everybody is going to be under that pressure to put in a good lap to start with. We can see the first driver to come out of the pits is RTA's Momo87 here as he comes roaring out and heads down towards turn number 1. Now we can also see a little bit further back already, a little bit of an argument kicking off, I think, between R18 and also Clarence, the THG and the KRT drivers respectively. I think they both want to be the leader of the two drivers they're going around. Now, of course, given the amount of time available, you don't have as much time to give yourself space out on the circuit. Now, we would naturally expect here, nobody's really going to want to qualify with a slipstream or a tow off another driver, unless they pick that tow up coming out of turn 18 in the run to the finish line. And that is a short run. It's not going to benefit you more than perhaps 1.5 tenths to 2 tenths, given the fact that GT Sports slipstream is very strong in general, and the slipstream zone off the back of a car is 3/4 of a second and closing. But you can imagine some drivers will be looking for that tow, but I do imagine most will be just trying to find themselves some clear track as soon as possible, and in the meantime they'll be getting around as quickly as possible to give themselves that all-important third qualifying lap. As we see here, they're all bunched up together in the run out of turn number 10. And we can also see there's some further comments with regards to the contact between Mahal and Damien. No further action needed, says Adamas. And thank you for the compliment there, Adamas, about the commentary. Really do appreciate that. And now, as we get ready to go for our opening laps, let's ride on board with Momo very shortly, the Belgian who is going to take us around for our demonstration lap, of course. And it will be the first fast lap of this session. So, of course, it will be the case that turn 18, a very important exit here. You want as much speed coming out this corner, and as he nails the exit, then gets to the throttle, Momo is going to take us across that time. And so on to a qualifying lap then. Building up that speed, up into 6th gear he goes, and just charging down towards turn number 1 right now, heading up to an exit at 170 miles an hour as he goes onto the brakes there. The 100-meter ball coming all the way down the gears to 2nd gear, goes a little bit wide and has to hesitate or get on the throttle there through fear of running wide as he comes through 2 and heads up into the braking zone at turn 3. Looking for the orange board on the left-hand side there. He nails the braking zone, coming all the way down, uses 2nd gear there, staying in a lower gear rather than staying in 3rd, and as he makes his way through 4 and 5 in nice and tight to both apexes and dropping a 2nd before up into 3rd and down to 1st, under braking into the hairpin of turn 6, getting on that throttle, up into 2nd there, using the upshift to stabilise the car, now coming into 8, seeing he's going into 4th gear, holding in 4th gear, not downshifting to 3rd, downshifting at the exit there, an interesting technique, deciding to use the downshift to give himself the confidence to go on the power at the end and then snap shift into 4th. Now into the hairpin, coming all the way down the gears at turn 10, going over the rise here, turn it into a symmetrical hairpin, first up into 2nd, a bit of snap oversteer there on the exit, just too much power going through the wheels, and as he makes his way down towards 11 now, looking for that 50-meter board, and drifting his way into the corner, and very nice turn 11 there, a very solid turn 11 as he comes through 12, holds into 4th gear, not going into 3rd, I would have suspected he would have used 3rd there, but he's decided with 4th, and as he comes through 15, you can see he's got a little bit wide of the apex there at 15, as he heads up the hill and now into 16, it is the situation where this lap has not been the best one for Momo, but he's got to find some more time out on circuit as he makes his way up into 18, and it's the case, just drifting once again, getting a lot of body roll going into the corner here, the car understeering through the corner, and as it makes its way across that timeline, what's going to be our opening lap? It is going to be a 36.399. What will R18 do? He's going faster. He's faster by 13 thousandths. We can see Clarence has set a time there of what is a 36.4. More times to come in as we see Zpot there comes across across side of 37.0. Meanwhile, as more drivers are coming across, we see Ipsimo into the pits to get himself some clear space out of the circuit. And it is the case that all the tyres are coming in, but nobody really putting in a massive lap right now. And even R18, not the best lap compared to what he did in the first session. So I think a lot of our drivers here are being caught out by the shortness, the brevity of this qualifying session. And we can see so far, after one round of qualifying laps, it's the case that it's R18 who's got that provisional pole ahead of Momo by only 13 thousandths. Then it's Clarence, who is a further 600ths off. Then we've got 3 tenths to Damien, who's really the best of the rest right now in P4, followed by Zpot there in P5, who's 2.5 tenths off. It's then Mihal for KRT, who's a further 6.5 tenths off, and I think that lap is not demonstrative of what he can do. The same with Bobby here, and Lumic as well, and then it's Zeno who's 2 seconds down on Lumic, and then Ipsimo and Zloty have yet to put in laps. Although I say that, it's the case the PRT driver here is going purple in sectors 1 and 2. Now, can he complete the sequence and set himself a provisional pole here? We'll wait to see, but we are definitely going to see a shake-up of that qualifying order, I think, as he makes his way through the final quarter. What's it going to be for the PRT driver? He comes to the line. It's not enough. The final sector he really struggled with, and he's dropped all the way down to P4, and it is the case he's 3 tenths off a provisional pole right now, but it's that final sector that's hurting the PRT driver. As we see R18 coming across, Momo takes provisional pole of 36.2. R18 of 36.0, and it looks as though R18's now settling into the rhythm. He's got onto his final qualifying lap here. Will the Australian be able to set a 35? That's his target. I'm sure he'll be thinking, I could hit a 35.8 as he makes his way through turn at number 1 and down into 2. And as he heads in towards 3, what's it going to be in sector 1? He's down slightly, but it's a limited sector. Sectors 2 and 3 where the time is. As we can see, Damien has set himself a personal best of 36.5. Keith in provisional P4 for the time being. And then it is Epoch here in P5 as it currently stands, but a lot of drivers really still struggling with this qualifying session, just not able to get the time. Although I say that, I think Zeno's pretty much matched his best in his first qualifying session with 36.6 right now. The Dutchman doing everything he can. It's still very close in qualifying though. It should be said, it is the case that in terms of our order, well, it's our top 8 who are separated by under a second. Then you've got to go quite some distance to P9 in the form of ART's Bobby right now, the RAA driver who's representing ART, of course the Amigos racing team, as he comes through turn 10. But now we are coming to the end of qualifying. Everybody is now onto their final qualifying lap. We will wait and see how they all go, as I believe it is the case. Well, we have Zloty first, who's coming through the final corner, so he'll be the first one to set his final time. Can he improve from a 36.7 as he comes through? It is looking like an improvement. A 36.6 puts him provisional P5. Now it's on Momo to see if the Belgian can take back that provisional pole. I think it's going to be a long shot. He's 2 attempts down. He's not purple in sector 1 or 2. He comes across the line and it's not enough. As we then see R18 here, has he gone even faster? Slightly faster. He didn't hit a 35, but he has gone faster. As we see, Clarence did not improve. What about Damien? Well, he's going to be coming across very soon here. As we do see, we have also got there Mihal coming across the line. We've got Lumic has improved to P9. Mihal improves. Damien does not improve. And what about Zeno? He does not improve either. We've only got one more driver out on the circuit right now, and I believe that is Ipsimo, who's right now making his one and only qualifying lap here. Can Ipsimo improve himself from P11? He comes that timeline here, and that is a good lap. P4 from Ipsimo right at the end of qualifying. R18 takes pole. It's time for race number 3. So as he panned down to the grid, R18 on the left, Momo on the right, they're our front row. Behind them, Clarence and Ipsimo. Will we expect another mega launch from Clarence, or could we see Zeno in P8 come up through the field? Let's find out. And it's lights out and away we go for race number 3 as they make their way off the line, and we can see that Clarence with a monster launch already has got himself ahead of Momo, but I don't think he's going to be able to get past R18, who's gone heavily defensive into 1, and we can see Ipsimo as well getting the launch there, and Momo bogging down as behind them Zpok up into P6. They all make it through, but Ipsimo gets it horrifically wrong and taps Damien, and Ipsimo drops all the way down the order. We'll take a look back at what happened shortly, but Clarence on the defensive versus Momo, and we can see there that is Mihal, who's gone for the move into turn 3's up into pieces. Oh, goodness me. It's all kicked off. We've got 2 drivers into the wall at turn 4. And Zloty and Bobby, my goodness. We're going to have to analyse that very shortly. But right now, R18 has got the lead and Clarence is in P2. This is the reverse of what happened between the two of them in race number 1, where it was Clarence who got the lead over R18 as they make their way up towards turn number 10. Z-Pot, meanwhile, under pressure from Damien, and Damien going very early for the move this time. He's going for it into turn 10. He signalled his intentions, and we can see Z-Pot has no way of shutting the door as Mihao tucks in behind, but gets a little bit of oversteer on exit here as they come roaring down the hill, and we can see Damien able to hold on for the time being. As they make their way through the right-hander here, they come through turn number 12 and come roaring up towards turn number 13 as they come all the way through the sequence of corners here. It's the situation where we can see that Mihao just boxed in, as we can see that a little bit of a moment. I think there may have been some contact with Zeno, but it looks as though Z-Pot is pushing Mihao backwards towards Zeno right now, and this is an uncomfortable position for the Polishman as they make their way up towards turn number 18. But as they all come through the final 2 corners, it has been a very dramatic opener to race number 3, and it is after one lap, R18 leading by 7/10 a second over Clarence, followed by Momo in P3, then Damien in P4, Z-Pot in P5, followed by Mihao in P6, then we've got Zeno in P7, followed by Lumic in P8, Ipsimo P9, and then last but not least of our drivers, we have got Bobby here in P10. We have had the retirement of what was Lottie, and as a result now, and we have also got Bobby into the pits here. Bobby with the damage on the car, and that is a disaster as we are hearing that Lottie, I think, with a car that's had to be retired due to damage, and Bobby is in for repair as well, as we see R18 leading for the time and Momo trying to hunt down Clarence here. We saw this in race number 1 and we're seeing it again in race number 3. Momo just waiting to pounce as Lumic is in P8 and Ipsimo with that disastrous moment coming out of turn 1. Oh, we got another car off the circuit right now. That's Mihao into the wall, and I think he's been pulled into the wall by running wide on entry into turn 8. We won't be able to take a look back at that right now, but what I can bring you back is what happened at the run into what was turn number 4 on the opening lap, which involved a number of drivers, including Bobby. Let's find out what happened. So this was at the start. So watch Ipsimo. Ipsimo gets it wrong here and goes onto the grass on the inside of 2. But now wait for what happens here. We're going to have the perspective on Bobby, who gets caught up in all this. We can see all the drivers coming together. They tried to make it 4 wide here. Bobby came in. There was contact. And I think Bobby's going to get the whack from what was Lottie there. And that was Lottie being made to go onto the grass is what kicked it all off. And the disaster. But we have lost multiple drivers at the start of this one, which is very unfortunate. But now the show must press on as we're on to lap number 3, and R18 is not letting this race go. He is trying to run away with things as it currently stands, coming roaring down towards turn number 1 once again. Clarence behind, but it does look as though our top 3 this time are a little bit more spaced out, and we've got Damien who's holding strong in P4 right now, just keeping the leaders in arm's reach, as we see Z-Pot in P5, Zeno in P6, Lumic in P7, and then we've got Ipsimo in P8, and Mihao with the car that's been repaired coming into the pit, well, the car that went off only moments ago, Mihao into the pits for a repair stop. I believe he has got major damage to that car. So it's the case we have effectively lost 3 drivers from this race before even getting to the halfway point. And that does happen every so often. It's why Autopolis is not liked by certain drivers, because you make one mistake here where it's in a battle or just for your own doing, and this circuit will punish you severely. But right now, one driver who hasn't been punished severely because he hasn't made any major mistakes, R18 still leading after a good start, and this time making that pole position work to his advantage. He's 1.2 seconds clear. He has the fastest lap, and now can he bring home the win? That's the big question. He will want to, of course. He's picked up 2 P2s as he goes wide out turn 11, but he keeps his foot in it and makes sure the car doesn't lift through the corner, and R18 there with a very, very close moment, as Clarence is already knowing too well he can close up now. He's closed up by 2 attempts. I think the Polishman will think about keeping that pressure on versus the Australian, as meanwhile Damien in P4 has to just look on chasing after Momo. Meanwhile Z-Pot here, as we ride on board with the Frenchman looking back from our P5 driver. We can see the GTWGP driver just worrying about Zeno right now, and Zeno, the ART driver, coming into this race as well. But it is worth noting, it seems as though the ART driver, the Amigos Racing Team driver, is stronger as the race goes on, in terms of as we go deeper into the race and that tyre wear bites in. And I think Zeno here may be looking at a P5 at most. But meanwhile, further down the order, I can tell you that Lumic and Ipsimo are battling for position here as they come roaring down towards turn 1. Ipsimo on the inside, Lumic on the outside. This is a P7. Ipsimo is going for the traditional traditional pass, but he's overcooked it a little bit, gone deep, and the rear's coming loose, but he's kept it together for the time being. If Simon now has to go defensive potentially into 3, will Lumic come back? I don't think Lumic's got enough room to do it. He's not close enough, and if Simo with a very tricky move up towards P7 right now. Lumic down to P8, as meanwhile we can see that it's the case that Z-Pot is closed up by Zeno right now, but Zeno's got to try and find a way through. It's one thing to gain and get close, it's another thing overtaking, as a certain the legendary commentator of Murray Walker once said, but right now Z-Pot has got everything to do in terms of defending as they make their way up towards turn number 10, and we can see Zeno here is just trying to stay close and look for that opportunity going into another overtaking position, potentially to turn number 11. Meanwhile, up front, I can tell you that R18 is still leading and holding that gap firm at a second. We can see that Clarence is being closed up a little by Momo here, but it does look as though our top 4 are all spaced out to a point where they can neither gain nor lose compared to one another. I think they're all feeling the effects of the dirty air, and also knowing that this result, what they can get now, is going to be critical, and they want to save these positions for the purposes of the... Oh, goodness me, I say that, and Momo goes wide, and Momo's gone for a spin, and that's a disaster for the RTA driver, who's got rear damage as well after funking the wall with the rear of the car. What happened to the Belgian? So this was only moments to go, RTA Mo. Now I suspect he's run wide or got it wrong at turn number 17. So as he's come up, well, turn 16, as he's come up the hill here, as he attacked the turn 16 apex, no, the rear slid. He's put one wheel up onto the grass, particularly the right and rear tyre, and it's just simply let the car go onto the grass and gravel. And that is very unfortunate for Mo, who's into the pits with that rear damage. But I suspect he'll be able to get it repaired rather rapidly here. As we see now, R18 holds on to lead by 1.5 seconds. Clarence in P2 just dropping back a little bit, and then Damien, well, I think Damien's not going to complain about this. He's gained a place without having to make an overtake late on in the race. We're on the penultimate lap right now, and we can see that Z-Pot's still holding off Zeno, and this is really our closest battle as it currently stands. Although I say that if Simon's trying to get a bit closer as well, we may have a three-way fight for P4 come the end of the race. We'll wait and see. As Lumic in P7, we've got Momo in P8, and he has got Mihao trying to chase after him right now. As they make their way down, I think Momo's just run a bit. Oh, Momo's onto the gravel again. Just running wide out of turn 1, and Momo just not able to get his head in the game. And that is a very difficult moment for Momo. As meanwhile, we can see our leader continuing to run well. And as they all come rip-roaring up towards what is turn number 13 and 14. And as they come through 15 and 16, it is the case that R18 just doing everything he needs to for the time being to hold on to that lead. As he's going to be coming through soon to go on to that final lap, and as they make their way through, we can see it's the situation where our top 3 are spaced out enough, but meanwhile Z-Pot has still got Zeno chasing after him in that battle for P4, and if Simo also closing up gradually here, will we see a movement erupt come the very end? We'll have to wait and see as they go on to their final lap. Our leader's already onto the final lap and down to turn 1. You have to imagine that Z-Pot right now will be hoping that he can just keep it together right now. He doesn't need to do anything magical. It's the case that Zeno's not close enough to go for a move, and because he only really needs to worry about defending up to turn 11 right now, and you can see Z-Pot there pulling off of the racing line. He's trying to just get himself clear of that slipstream, not to afford Zeno any potential tow. And as they make their way through turn number 3 right now, I think he just needs to focus on keeping it together. He doesn't need to do anything magical to bring home that P4. But meanwhile, Clarence versus Damien, the battle for P2. And see Clarence there struggling a little bit on the exit of turn number 6 as he made his way up into 7. The rear end not wanting to settle down, but I think the KRT driver has got this P2 in the bag. He'll want the win, of course. He'll have wanted the win, but I do think that our leader right now of THG's R18 has simply done enough, and this time got it right. He didn't bog down as much as he did in race 1 at the start, and it's enabled him to hold on to this lead after Clarence tried to make that fast start, of course. But meanwhile, it's the battle for P4 that we're most concerned about now, as we can see that Z-Pot making his way down towards turn number 11. Zeno's there, but this is the last overtaking opportunity until the start-finish line, and unless Z-Pot makes a mistake, which I don't think he's going to do, to be fair, I think he has got this. He's just got to be sensitive to the car feeling a little bit rough around the edges as they make their way through the final sequence of corners. But we can see R18 here, he's got a 1.7 second gap. He doesn't need to push it too hard, and as he makes his way through 18, he comes to the final corner, and it will be the Australian who takes the win in race number 3 of round 5, ahead of KRT Clarence and Damien from GTBE. A brilliant drive by our top 3. Then it will be Z-Pot in the end who holds on to P4 for GTWGP, Zeno from ART in P5, it's Simo from CBR INCR in P6, and then we have got Lumic here who's going to come home in the end with a P7, which he'll probably be thinking, how on earth did it all happen, and how on earth am I here and the guys behind us so far back? Well, there was a lot of chaos and carnage, and I think it will be the case that their stewards will have their hands full as we see Lumic from Calcedar finishes P7, and it is going to be Mihao in the end, who after repairing the car will be coming home in a fortuitous P8, and well done to Mihao for bringing the car home despite the damage and getting it repaired. Good job on the team for getting that car back out on circuit as he crosses the timeline in P8. And then it will be Momo in the end with a P9 after that disastrous moment at turn number 16. And Bobby will be coming home in P10. And it will be the case that we had the one retirement of what was Lottie in the PRT driver who's going to finish P11. But a brilliant race from all of our drivers once again. And we can see there in the chat, Kuba XC saying, I don't know who, but second time someone pushes me off the track, and that is a quote from PRT's Zloty with regards to the contact. That's very unfortunate, but that's one of the things that will need to be taken to the stewards. But of course, what it does mean for Zloty, he will be starting towards the front. In fact, he'll be starting on the front row, and I think he might even be starting in pole for the final race of the season. Perhaps he'll be able to convert that pole into a major result, and that's of course why we have the reverse grid to mix things up. And for those wondering, are the races worth different values? No, all 4 races are worth the same value. So you want to finish well in all 4 races. As we see now, we're just waiting for Bobby to come out the pits and cross that timeline, or for the timer to count down right now. But it has been a bit of a dramatic race, this third race, but indeed still plenty more to come in the finale, as we are just waiting right now. But a great drive from our top 3, in particular R18. They're holding off Clarence, and I think the 2 drivers will be thinking to themselves at this point that they're quite evenly matched, and it will be about the launch of the pair of them come the end of race number 4. That will separate the 2 of them. As meanwhile, Damien now will have to think about doing the 2-stop again. Will he do it? And will we see anybody else convert to the 2-stop for race number 4? That would be the big question, because Damien did have the pace to bring home the win, albeit it wasn't able to happen in race 2. Could he make it happen in race number 4? And then further down, Zepot with some great defensive driving, but we do know that this man, our P5 man of ART Zeno, he'll be starting in what will be the midfield for race number 4, and with his time management and car management, we would imagine that he will go for another win after a brilliant win in the first of our 2 feature races. But that is race number 3, ladies and gentlemen, and as the finishing board will come up very shortly in 3, 2 and 1, it will be the case we say congratulations to all of our drivers, but a special congratulations to our race winner, THG's R18E from Australia. But as we now look at those race results, subject to any stewards' inquiries, we can see here R18E from THG taking the win by 1.8 seconds over KRT's Clarence, and the podium being rounded off by GTB's Damien 92i, who finished 2.5 seconds off of the leader. 4th and 5th taken by Zepot from GTWGP and ART's Zeno respectively, and then the rest of our field finishing in the following order. Ibsimo 91 from INCR in P6, Lumic 1 from KZR P7, Mihao from KRT in P8, Momo 87 from RT8 in P9, and then we've got Bobby from ART in P10, and last but not least, Zloty from PRT in P11. But a difficult race for our drivers, and Mihao with the fastest lap on lap 4 of 37.491. And we will now have a brief, what is about 2 to 3 minute break before we go racing one last time. So that gives us the opportunity to put these results into our tracker spreadsheet. And well, it's what we're just using to see how all of our drivers are performing over the course of tonight. But indeed, a great result from R18 once again. And he is looking currently on course to be the overall winner from Lobby F tonight, or Group F in terms of the maximum number of points gained. But it could all turn the tables come the final race. Of course, you never know what can happen in motorsport. And it's one of the reasons why we love motorsport indeed, as is the case that with the absence of Carlitos and Fluffy Butt, we are now down to 11 drivers out of our potential 13 racers tonight. But as all our drivers now get ready to go racing once again, feel free to chip in with your thoughts of your expectations for the finale of tonight and what's been your favourite moment so far. As we see there, we've got a 3-minute timer until we go racing once again, and that gives me a good opportunity to take a quick sip of water before we go racing that one last time. But we are back now, ladies and gentlemen, and as I say, we have got one more race for you over the course of the proceedings, and we can see Zotti and also Moa just getting in some practice right now. The feature race, where we have that big strategic question, of course, of is it the 2-stop or the 1-stop that will prevail, and how will it all play out in terms of running in traffic, fuel saving. And we saw in the first of our 2 feature races just how important the fuel saving aspect was, and how it gave some of our drivers the ability to jump others in the pits and being able to just run in the slipstream train. But of course, for anybody who's on that 2-stop, they will not want to be in that train. They will want to jump it as quickly as possible and go running off into the distance. Now, of course, for our race winner in race number 3, he'll be starting last of our drivers in the next race, and that is R18, of course. He will have that major challenge of, well, what does he do? Well, he's going to have to go for the 1-stop most likely, because he's going to have to otherwise scythe his way through a field of drivers who are definitely not going to be that obliging to let him through. Meanwhile, other drivers, particularly our driver who will be starting right at the front, and that is Lotti, will he decide to gamble on the 2-stop or stick to the 1-stop, which is known to be the faster strategy in what is traffic. But as soon as you have any clear air, if you have tons of clear air, then the 2-stop becomes more and more viable by the second. It's all going to be important, and we will wait to see. As we can see him short-shifted his way up into turn 8 right now, and that is what a lot of our drivers will be doing. We will see a lot of short-shifting for our drivers to save fuel, and also using higher fuel modes in terms of fuel map through 2 through to 6 in order to save fuel. Quote unquote, the lowest fuel mode, of course, is 1, but that is technically the fastest. It sounds a little bit odd, it sounds a bit backwards, but if we do it in terms of numbers, 1 is the lowest fuel mode, but it's the fastest one. 6 is the highest, but it's technically the most fuel conservatory, so therefore it'll be the slowest trim for the car, if that makes sense. But we are now just waiting to get underway. As he's Lotti in the 574 car, making his way through the right hand of that of turn number 14, and we see there the confirmation from the KLT clearance driver that it is time to go racing one last time, ladies and gentlemen. It's race number 4, the reverse grid feature race. Let's find out who's going to be our winner. So as we pan down to the grid for one final time tonight, it is Zotti from what is PRT on pole, alongside him Bobby from ART. But what can Momo and Mihao do from the second row? And more importantly, what can Clarence and R18 do from the back? And it's lights out and away we go, and all of our drivers getting a relatively equal start this time. Zotti getting actually a very strong start, and we can see Ipsimo there coming from the outside and getting a good one. Momo going defensive. You can see everybody trying to find their way into a position down into turn 1 as they all come running through. Bobby on the offensive on the inside, and Momo here as they come out of turn 1, and everybody's made it safely through the corner this time as they come roaring down towards turn number 3. And we can see Zotti getting the lead as Ipsimo's got Bobby on his inside. Bobby going for that early move. Zymo's gone to the grass, and will it be a disaster? Much like on the previous race. No, everybody's able to keep it together, and I think drivers are calming down a little bit right now and realising this one's an endurance race, not a sprint. But as I say that, we've got Damien, who's been caught up at the apex at turn 6, and it's got very crowded as Damien has dropped down the order to a degree, and everybody's trying to fight for position right now. And I think some drivers are trying to get themselves into clear air or out of a pack in order to consider doing the 2-stop. As we see him, Simon coming through it, Damien has retired the car. I'm sorry to hear that the GTB driver has retired, and as a result, we are now down to 10 drivers already. We won't be able to bring you back what happened, but what we can see is Ipsimo's into P3, Momo into P2, and Zotti is running away with the lead right now. And meanwhile, Bobby in P4, having dropped down from P2 to P4 right now. It's been a very, very tough and tussle start, but now everybody started to go into that sequence and calm down to a degree as they make their way through 11, 12, and now up into 13 and 14. But you can see here Zepok just trying to find a way past Bobby. I think he feels as though he's being condensed backwards into Mihal right now as Mihal tries to get back at the Frenchman as they make their way through 17 here, but no such success for the time being as they come through it. Zepok has to go defensive here into 18 as they come on through, but after one lap it is Lottie from PRT leading right now ahead of Momo from RTA. Then it's Ipsimo from INCR in P3, followed by Bobby from ART in P4. There's Zepok P5, Mihal P6, Zeno P7, Lumit P8, Clarence P9, and then R18 in P10 as they all come crescending down towards turn 1 on the second lap. And you can see the Australian here just playing the long game, sitting in behind and staying behind Clarence here, keeping an eye on his main racing rival in terms of pace. But meanwhile, as our tries all come down towards turn number 3, we can see Zepok go for the move on the inside here versus Bobby. And I think the Frenchman feels he's the strongest of the 3 drivers in Sector 1 and also Sector 2, but it's Sector 3 where he struggles because of the dirty air of Bobby's car. And Mihal's going for the move on the inside here. It's going to be very nip and tuck, but he can't find the move as they make their way out of the corner. Behind them, Zito tucks in as well. And then we've got Clarence as R18 now looks at a move here, trying to go around the outside through turn number 8. And Lumic here, despite going defensive, there's a little bit of contact, but the Australian going all the way around the outside into turn 8 and through it. That is some brace up, and Lumic's going to come back at him here into turn 10. I think R18 at this point is trying to say to just give it up and made the move, but Lumic's not giving it up, and the KSR driver is coming back at him as they roar their way down towards turn number 11. And who's going to be the braver of the two under the brakes? Well, it is R18. He goes for it here. Lumic's pushed onto the grass slightly, and R18 has gained the position. I think what it is, the Australian does not want to lose Clarence. He does not want to lose the second fastest driver in his mind compared to him around on the circuit. He wants to have him as a pace car. We will see how that plays out, but right now you have to say there is the situation with Bobby holding up Mihal, Zeno and also Zepok, that this is going to enable both Clarence and also R18 to close up very quickly. Meanwhile, up ahead, we can see that Zloty is now falling backwards in terms of pace, but I think he might be naturally letting Momo catch up to him a little bit here and hoping that Momo wants to charge past him. But I think the Belgian may be saying in return, no, that's okay, Zloty, I'm just going to let you hold on to lead and I'll feel safe behind you. But then, of course, we have Ipsimo, who's only 1.8 seconds back, who will try to capitalise and close up to the pair of them if they come together. Meanwhile, we've got Mihal, he has made the move versus Bobby. Let's take a look at how that happened. So this was in the run down towards turn 1 as they came across the start-finish line to go to lap number 3. I think it's going to be a traditional move here. Mihal's going to go to the inside, Bobby's not going to defend it, and as a result, under braking. They both brake at roughly the same time, but Mihal goes a little bit light on the brakes initially to get the overrun into turn 1. And as we return to your live pictures, we can see here that with Mihal passing Bobby, he's pulling away. And now it's the other ART driver of Zeno who catches up to the back of Bobby, his teammate. Now, will they do the switch like what they did in race number 2, where there's going to be a little bit, I think, of team orders or team play here? I would assume it's going to be the case because Zepok here is closing up very rapidly to the back of Zeno. And they will not want Zepok getting between the two of them because that will make it harder for the two of them to run their chosen strategies as they make their way for 11. So I think the Dutchman's going to be on the radio soon, putting the order through. Can I please come through, Bobby? It's a situation where we've got a critical Frenchman behind us. We'll have to wait to see, of course, whether he'll oblige or not as they come through the right-hander of 14 and up into 15. But I suspect it is going to happen because you can see Bobby right now is costing his teammate a massive amount of time as they come over the crest through 16 and into 17. But we will wait and find out as behind them we do have Clarence here and R18 both closed up rather rapidly in the run. And it is the case the Polishman and the Australian pushing it to the absolute limit. And I think we're about to see, yep, we are going to see the switch. It is Bobby and Zeno. Bobby on the outside here in the run down towards 1. Zeno carries through, but look at this. Zepok is going to try and come through as well. But in the battle for P6, and we can see Bobby defending this hard. He knows he can't let Zepok get between the two of them right now. And it is the case that Bobby holds firm here and lets his teammate run off into the distance. I think Zepok's going to feel very frustrated at that. You can see a flash of the lights there as they came out of turn 1. I think Z-Pot will feel that he had the right to make the move there, and Bobby pulling out as late as possible to defend was not on. But of course, it's a case that's one for our stewards to talk about. As we can see here, Clarence is down the back of this pair, and it's one of the situations where the KRT driver will want to clear them both as soon as possible, whilst keeping them out of fuel in the car. Of course, he won't want to overuse the fuel, but he will want to get through, because right now, being tucked in behind them, they are going to cost him a serious amount of time as they make their way through turn number 8 and up into 9. And meanwhile, in terms of our leaders, we can see our Polish, the PRT driver Azlotti holding on to lead right now by 5 tenths of a second over Momo. But you can see here how once Momo caught up and got well inside the slipstream, he's backed off the pace. He's not going for the movement. I think what Zlotti's done, he's backed off himself to fuel save and do as much fuel saving as he can. And Momo's decided, you know what, I'll run to your pace and fuel save with you and get extra fuel saving in. And it's the case that if Simo's caught up to the back of him and he's trying to get into that slipstream, so that way he can also do some extra fuel saving. And now we have to wait and see as Michał there gets it a little bit wrong on the run through 14 and 15 and loses all the momentum he was gaining on Simo here. And I thought we were going to have a four-way train for the lead right now. As we can see, Zeno is catching up. And look at this, the ART driver, the leader of the two ART drivers here, the Dutchman, is absolutely flying now that he's clear of his teammate. And that's why it was so critical for the two of them to make the switch. It's great teamwork to see, of course. And now Z-Pot is going to look for the move versus Bobby. As we can see here, Bobby not defending this time, down into 1. And with Z-Pot is going to cover on the inside as Bobby holds it to P7. And it will be Z-Pot up into P6. But Bobby comes back and Z-Pot goes deep into 1 here. So Bobby looking to try and make little moves and comebacks as they come up into 3. He's going to be on the inside briefly. He's going to overextend on the brakes here to hold the position. But he's gone deep and he's just on the inside out to 4. Z-Pot's trying to go all the way around the outside to inside for 6. But as they come through the double left into the right, you can see Clarence also looking for the move here. And Clarence tries to come through. It's all concertinaing together. And as they make their way out of the hairpin, it's the case that Z-Pot gains the place. And Clarence, despite trying to find a way through, just could not find it in the end, and instead falls back to P8 for the time being. But you can imagine Clarence was looking for an opportunity there, and it just was not to work out as they make their way up the hill and towards what is turn number 10. And Bobby on the inside here versus Z-Pot, and that contact has sent Z-Pot off onto the grass. Well, very briefly, he dipped one wheel onto the grass, and it means that Bobby now is holding on to P6, but Clarence in P7. And I think Z-Pot right now, the temper of that man in that car, it must be a very hot temper, because that has been a very difficult battle that he's had to manage, and he's lost out 2 places to 1 driver as they make their way through turn at number 12 and 13 and up into 14 and 15 right now. And R18 is going to look for the move soon. You can be sure of it. He's all over the back. I can tell you that Momo has taken the lead, by the way, off Azlotti. They have changed places, but right now R18 is trying to find his way through for P8 and he can't quite find it. But meanwhile, our race leader of Momo making his way through. As we see, Zloty is now falling backwards, and that last lap from Zloty was a 1:41.6. And meanwhile, Ipsimo was on a 1:41.1. I do think there might have been a mistake from Zloty to lead to him dropping down a position right now. As we can see, Michał in P4, he's just keeping a good amount of pace to the leaders. And then we've got Zeno in P5. Clarence in P6 is holding off Bobby for the time being, and Bobby's definitely trying to make little nip and tuck moves back at the drivers as they make their way through turn 1. But I think also Clarence has just made the move for the position. So looking back, it was the case. So Clarence was in P7 in the run-up towards turn 1, going on to lap number 6 here. And we're going to see a similar move from what we saw earlier on. He just tucks the inside into turn 1, heavy on the brakes, both of them. Make sure that Bobby can't look for the potential cutback. Parks it on the apex nicely, and he's up into P6. Now, meanwhile, further down, I can tell you that Z-Pot in P8 right now, he's still got R18 behind him, but these guys just keeping it calm for the time being, and Lumic down in P10, falling away from the rest of the field as they make their way around. But meanwhile, our race leader, Momo, is continuing to open up that lead to 1.3 seconds as he comes down to turn 11 on lap number 6. And we can see here's Lottie running wide briefly, and a little bit of grounding there of the car. I don't know if anybody else saw those sparks coming off the back of Zlotti's car. That means he's had a ground effect occurred. Well, sorry, not a ground effect, where he's essentially bombed out the car, with the bottom of the car's actually scraped on the tarmac, and that has caused some additional understeer, and that's why he went wide, even further wide out of turn 11, as we see Simo there with a very rare mistake coming out of turn number 16 and into 17. But it is the situation where Simo has made a small mistake, and that has cost him the position to Michał, who's now up into P3. Michał gradually managing this race, and I think the KRT driver here could be on for some major points in race number 4 and ending his night on a high. This is really good driving from Mihal right now as they make their way down to turn 1 on lap number 7. And we say hello in the chat there to GM from our team RTA, and we hope you're doing well, GM, as we can see them all making their way around through turn number 2. And it is the RTA driver of Momo who is leading as it currently stands. But further down, we've got Zeno here in P5. And remember, Zeno was our winner in race number 2, the first of our 2 feature races, with a very consolidated drive, a very considerate drive. Can he pull off some magic in the pit stop window? As we see Clarence here in P6, Bobby P7, and we've still got R18 start behind Z-Pot here. And I think R18's got to think about trying to force the move soon. He's looking for it into turn 6. He sends it early, though. He makes sure that Z-Pot's got the message. I'm coming for the inside this time to the hairpin, whether you like it or not. And as they drag race the way out towards turn 8, Z-Pot is going to defend here into 8. They're going to make it go too wide. As they come through here, you can see R18's just got the grip. Z-Pot has not, and he loses the place. As they now make their way up towards turn number 10 here into the hairpin, and R18 is able to start creeping away, we would suspect. But meanwhile, well, if you wait to see 2 Polish drivers duking it out once again, here you go, ladies and gentlemen. We have got Zloty leading the pair of them, the PRT driver here, the Pitbull Racing Team driver, versus Mihal from KRT as they make their way up the hill here. We're looking on board and looking back from Zloty as our P2 driver here makes his way through centre team, but Mihal all over the back of him. And I do think that Mihal right now, the more comfortable place in terms of the car. Remember, they're racing on very heavily worn tyres, and Mihal looking for a sliver of a move out of 18. He's not going to find it there, but what he will find now is ample doses of slipstream as they go on to lap number 8, and Mihal goes to the inside, and Zloty I don't think is going to defend this. As we can see, Ibsimo's also looking for the double toe here. Mihal came out once, he didn't have the run. In fact, Mihal I think may have pulled out early there to get rid of the overspeed, but as they come out turn 1 and down towards 3, we can see that it's the case of Zloty now going defensive, and he's put the indicator on to say to Mihal, go round the inside of me, but Mihal instead's got the wrong message. He's gone to the outside to inside line, and there's no way through this time as Zloty shuts the door on him. There's a little bit of a miscommunication. I think Zloty wanted Mihal to pass him into 1, but Mihal has not got the message, and as they make their way through 6 and up into 7, it's a situation where, because they're fighting now, and I think it's unintentional fighting, they've actually enabled Ibsimo to close up, and Zeno right now is only 1.5 seconds off of the group of 3 drives, and I think this is giving Zeno an opportunity to get into the fight. As we can see here, Mihal now going for the move into turn 10. He's going to make that turn 10 apexes, but he goes way too deep, and at this point, look at Ibsimo. Ibsimo goes to the double move, and as they drag race their way down towards turn 11, I think Ibsimo's going to go around the outside unless Mihal gets it back together. Goodness me, and Mihal in the end does get together. He goes on the grass, as does Zloty, and it looks like Ibsimo's going to try and come back into 12, but there's no way through, and the Italian, almost with a 2-for-1 special, has to only take the 1 place in the end. But what a dramatic moment there, and Ibsimo almost with a double pass. Let's take a look back at that from Ibsimo's perspective. So it was the case that Zloty and also Mihal went deep, but as they came out the corner here, you can see that Mihal put his foot down, and in the drag race down towards turn number 12, it was the situation where Mihal just has the better gearing on the car, and I think Ibsimo also backed it off slightly there, realising there was no point the 2 of them fighting into the 1 corner as they all make their way across the timeline to go on to lap number 9. Will we see anybody make a pit stop? Not yet. We have not seen a pit stop from anyone, although I say that Z-Pot comes into the pits from what was P7 at the time, and now it's their case that everybody else staying out there. So we've only got the one, well, we've got 2 drivers in, Bobby as well into the pits from what was P10, and now that they're making their pit stops, we will wait and see how everybody else reacts. Of course, we're at the halfway point of the race. We're an odd number of laps. The halfway point is lap 8 to lap 9 effectively, as the Momo really struggling for tyre life now as he makes his way out of turn 6, and that's going to cost him some major time, as Mihal meanwhile doing everything he can to hold on for the time being, as Ibsimo tries to find a way on through and find a way up to P2. But remember, it will be the case that our drivers who are pitted now will have the fresher tyres initially, but those tyres will be very heavily worn come the end. Conversely, all of our drivers who stayed out right now, by going that an additional lap, they will have the fresher tyres come the end of the race, and it did seem to be the preference to have the fresher tyres coming in on lap number 9 rather than lap number 8, as we see Mihal right now holding on and Ibsimo chasing after him. Behind, we can see that Zloty really struggling right now on those tyres. Zeno in that very comfortable position, however, of just managing the car here, and the Dutchman doing a phenomenal job as he tucks in right close behind the Polishman as they come up the hill through turns 15 and into 16 and 17. They come through under the bridge here, and I think Zeno could be an opportunity to leapfrog Zloty through the pit stop as they make their way through 18 and up towards 19 to complete lap number 9. And surely we're going to have a lot of pit stops. Momo's into the pits, Mihaw's into the pits, if Simon's into the pits, what about Zloty? Yes, and Zeno as well. They all come in. Let's take a look at those fuel gauges. This is going to be critical, and Zeno with less fuel than Zloty here. I think that could actually hurt him considerably. And R18 also into the pits, deciding it's time to be as he hits the wall, and that's a disaster for R18 because that will mean engine damage, which will cost him at least 6 seconds to repair. And R18's race has just taken a turn for the worst, as now he's got all that damage to repair on the car, plus the time he lost from hitting the wall, as we now wait to see who's going to be the first out of the pits here. And it is Momo who is the first to emerge. Mihao behind him as they all come roaring through here, and Mihao has closed up under the pit stop. He's closed a second in the pit window, and we can see him Simon as well just behind him. Zeno has jumped Zloty in the battle for P4 in the pits, and then it's Clarence who's come back out in P6, but he's got a nice amount of clear air right now. He is 4 seconds off the drivers ahead, and Clarence very fast, of course, as we see CPOC has got ahead of R18, with R18 having to repair the car. Otherwise R18 we suspect would have come out ahead of the Frenchman, as the R18 in P8, Lumic P9, and then Bobby down in a lonesome P10 for the time being. As they all make their way, we've had one retirement out of our 11 drivers in this race, and that was GTB's Damien 92i on the opening lap after an incident at turn 6. We end up beached up on the curve, but right now we've had our pit stops, and it is the case that it is a race to the finish. We're not expecting any more scheduled stops from anyone, and can this man here, the Belgian Momo 87, bring home a win in the finale of tonight? Or will it be the case that Mihao here, the driver who has proven to be very, very fast in these feature races, can he do something special? Or will it be INCR CBR's Ipsimo here as he makes his way around in P3 through turn number 12? Can the Italian spring a late surprise, or will it be our winner of the previous feature race, Zeno, who finds some magic to take the win at the very end? We will wait and find out, of course. We have still got the best part of 8 laps to go, including this one. It'll be 7 laps when they come across the crossing line, the timing line I should say, next time around, as they all make their way on through once again here. And meanwhile further down, can Clarence do something special here? He has cleared his main rival in terms of pace, R18, but will he be able to get himself into the top 5 or further? And I think right now he's going to have to find some magic to do so as he makes his way across that timeline onto lap number 11 he goes. But meanwhile, when Momo holding on to that lead, he's opened up a bit more of a gap. He's opened that gap up now to 2.5 seconds. Further down the order, I can tell you that R18, he's got Lumic chasing after him, but he's got a good gap to Lumic as it currently stands of what is 1.1 seconds. So I think the Australian here will feel confident in his abilities to hold Lumic at bay, but can he get past Zepot, who's 1.6 seconds up the road? That will be the best he can recover to at this point, because Clarence is much further ahead. You can see the gap between P6 and P7. It's multiple corners. It is almost 10 seconds that gap right now. So I think R18 will be looking at a P7 at best, unless there's anything that happens to the drivers ahead of him that's outside of their control. It's all in the hands of the racing gods for R18 right now. But as they make their way around the circuit, we can tell you that Lumic has fallen back, having a little bit of a moment there coming out of turn number 6, and R18's having to soldier on versus Zepot. But meanwhile, up front, we can see how Mihao has got Ipsimo closing up to the back of him very gradually here. And I think what Mihao's trying to do, I think he's trying to nurse the car. And Ipsimo there with a major moment. And Ipsimo's had it all gone horrifically wrong. And no goodness, this has happened again for Ipsimo, where he's just simply pushed it too hard. Let's take a look back. So this was only moments to go, and the Italian coming out of turn 10, a nice smooth exit out of turn 10, and that's where he gained so much. But as he's come down through 11, I suspect the left-hand wheels have gone onto the grass. As he's made his way down, he's hit the curve he's gone wide of the curve, and the left-hand wheels have gone up, and it's the rear left that's just given way and said it hasn't got the grip. And Ipsimo there with the moment from hell has seen himself drop from P3 in the battle for P2 to P6, but he's still got a 5.7 second gap from Zepot behind him. And can he close up to Clarence and the guys ahead of him, who are 5.5 seconds ahead in turn? But what this does do now, it should be said, is it opens up Mihao to an opportunity to manage this race and potentially catch up to Momo on the last couple of laps. We know that the Belgian is much stronger on the fresher tyres in the feature race compared to Mihao, but Mihao seems to be more composed come the end of the race distance. We will wait to see, as behind right now, Zepot has got R18 all over the back, and this is the closest battle on circuit as it currently stands, as they make their way through the corners right now, and we say hello to Jeff in the chat. We hope you're doing well, Jeff. And we can also see there, Pio's Goat saying nice take by Mihao, and indeed it was a fantastic overtake earlier on, as we see R18 trying to go around the outside through 7 to the inside of 8. He can't find it versus Epot, who's got it buried nicely there on the racing line, and as they make their way up through 8 here, you can imagine that R18 is going to look for every which way through now that he's this close. He'll have the slipstream, of course, and also he'll have that feeling that he is the faster of the two drivers on outright pace as they make their way through turn number 10. As they come out the hairpin, you see Zepot struggling to take the natural line for the car. He goes defensive down into 11, but pulls onto the racing line, and R18's going to look for it on the inside here into 11. He drifts a little bit onto the apex, and Zepot's able to hold on for the time being. R18 just pushing it a little too hard there under braking and not giving himself room, and we've had an off somewhere. I think we've had Ipsimo take off. Well, we've had somebody have an off because they've just rejoined, and that is Lottie, I think, who's just had a disaster moment. What's happened to the Polishman? So making his way up the hill here through turn number 12 into 13 and 14, and now kind of up through the right-hander of 15. Does the car just go through 16? We've seen a number of drivers caught out by this as they come over the rise of 16. Yes, he's put the right-hand tyres off circuit, and that's taken him to the gravel, but fortunately able to get the car turned around and back onto the tarmac nicely. That's a good save from Zotti, and he's only lost a couple of places. He's down to P5, and he has not lost the place to Simo, who's 2.7 seconds back and trying to close at this point in time. But meanwhile, Zepot has got R18 all over the back of him, and you can see Lumic there in the rear of the picture trying to close up to the back of these two as well as they make their way into turn number 3 on lap 13. Only 5 laps remaining, including this one, as they come through turns 4 and 5 and up into 6. R18 looks through it there. Zepot goes very deep, and R18 I think this time is going to make the move as Bobby has pitted once again. I think Bobby may have boxed to retire the car, given the fact he's been in the pits sometimes. I look out my commentary box window, but what I can tell you is that R18 has now gained the position versus Zepot with a classic turn 6 hairpin overtake as they make their way up the hill towards turn number 10 now into the second of our hairpins, and it is the situation where Zepot's not able to find a way back. But meanwhile, our race leader, Momo, continuing to open up that lead. That last lap from Momo was a 1:39.5 from the Belgian. Meanwhile, from Mihao, it was a 1:39.5. So it is the case. In fact, the two of them quite equal in terms of lap time last time around. But now as they make their way through the final sector, you can see the differences where Mihao taking a much more conservative line to try and protect the tyres rather than that more aggressive line to the apex. But the gap is staying quite consistent, although it's dropped by 3 tenths now. Zeno in P3, we've got Clarence in P4, and then we've got Zloty in P5 completing our top 5, holding off Ipsimo for the time being. But meanwhile, further back, I can tell you that Zepot right now has got Lumic over the back, and these two cannot see each other, I believe, ladies and gentlemen, in the lobby, as we see Zepot into the pits here, and I think Zepot's decided, you know what, I'm just going to go for fastest lap. I think he's thrown in the towel there and realised the tyres are not going to take him to the end, and he's not happy with the state of those tyres. He's not happy with the Michelins that he's running on his car, as meanwhile, Momo is now starting to be reeled in by Mihao. We said it was going to happen, where Mihao is normally the more comfortable of the two come the late game, the late phase on these tyres, and we can see now that gap has come down somewhat. But will it be the case that Momo's able to hold on, or will we see Mihao take the win? I can tell you one thing, regardless of which driver wins, it will be 4 different winners in 4 different races tonight, and that is fantastic to see in this round at Autopolis. It goes to show you just how close these drivers are in terms of their racing capabilities. But Momo right now with a gap that is very gradually coming down, and it looks as though Mihao is going to have the better of him towards the end. But can it be the case, or will Momo, when he's caught up, if he is caught up, will he have a defensive card up his sleeve, and will he be able to deploy it? Meanwhile, Zeno 4 seconds down right now. We have to imagine that the Dutchman, whilst he's a long way back, can he get himself into that fight if they should start fighting for quite an extended period of time? He will be looking at that, and he'll be thinking they're getting closer together. Can he get involved? We'll have to wait and see about that one, as Clarence looks to try and chase down Zeno for the final step of the podium. And on this lap, Clarence putting in a good lap so far. 2.3 seconds is the gap between the two of them. And on that lap, it was the case that Clarence set in a 39.8 versus Zeno, who set what was a 40.4. So he's closed up by 6 tenths of a second. Clarence is definitely flying by comparison. And Mihao right now, by comparison with those two, on a 39.3 that previous lap. And our race leader, who is struggling a little bit now, of 40.0. Not losing too much time and struggling perhaps a little bit of an exaggeration, but you can see that as he comes out of 6, he just can't quite get the car pointed as much as he wants to, and this is the problem for Momo right now. He's having to fight the car. The tyres have not got the grip. He's having to force the car to do what he wants, and when you end up in that situation, I can tell you it's one of the most uncomfortable situations, because if you fight too hard versus the car, it can end up being curtains for your race. As he makes his way out of the turn 10 hairpin down towards 11 now, he's holding the gap to Mihao at 2 seconds, but Mihao will know that that gap is closable as they make their way down through turn number 11. They both go to the full limit there. Mihao just a little bit faster as they come roaring up through turn 12. The gap continues to close, and this is where Mihao's able to close up. It's sector 3 where Mihao just has the greater grip, the greater confidence in the capabilities of the car as they come roaring through 16 into 17. Under the bridge they go, and the gap closes up by a further 3 tenths as Mihao almost runs off circuit there, but he's using the full width of the circuit. Mihao pushing it to the limit here as he goes a bit wide out of 18, and that's going to buy Momo some time. That buys Momo a further 3 tenths of time. Mihao's lost all the time he gained with one little error out of 18, and that is how hard he wants this win. But Momo right now, you'd have to say, is keeping things alive and doing it perfectly right now. It may not be the cleanest from Momo, but he hasn't made any major errors, and he's got 2 more laps to go. For an ultimate lap time, it's lap 16 of 17. Can he bring home the win? Zeno, meanwhile, behind, a bit further back right now, and Clarence chasing after Zeno. We're looking at Clarence right now, who's 1.9 seconds off of Zeno, and Zeno is 5 seconds off the leaders. And I think Zeno at this point will be looking more in his rearview mirror than he will be looking ahead. Excuse me, in terms of the battles he'll be looking for, he'll be just looking to hold on to that P3 and conclude a positive night of racing as Clarence continues to chase after him. And then we've got Zloty here, further 5 seconds back, and Simo just not able to close up and now starting to struggle on the tyres. I can tell you that R18 in P7, I don't think he's going to be gaining any more places, and Lumic the same, with Zpot making that pit stop. Lumic up into P8, Zpot in P9, the last of our runners right now. We lost what is RTA's, not RTA's, my apologies, ART's Bobby earlier on in the race. He's retired the race, currently in the pits due to technical damage. And we also lost on the first lap GTV's Damien with a technical issue on the car, beaching itself on turn number 6. But we can see right now as they make their way through sector 3, it's the case once again, Mihao closing up to Momo. Their gap has come down by over 6 tenths in this sector, but Momo is fighting back right now as they come to the end of the sector, and Momo seems to have found a line. He seems to have been able to find a line to keep him alive. He goes on to the final lap. One more tour of the Autopolis circuit to go. It's a 1.6 second gap, and can Momo hold on for the lead? That last lap from Momo, a 40.6. The last lap from Mihao, it was a 40.2. In the end, only 4 attempts were closed up, but now as they make their way through, the tyres are in their worst possible condition for both drivers now. It is the lap that will separate the boys and the men as they make their way down towards turn number 3. This is where winners are made, and as they come on through, you have to imagine Mihao right now will be gunning that car with every ounce of strength, but Momo will be doing the same as well. But of course the pressure's on Mihao. He has to cut the time down. Momo just needs to drive it safe and not do anything silly. Mihao's got to push the car, and then even more as they make the way through turn number 8. Behind them, Zeno is being closed up by Clarence, but Clarence is still 1.3 seconds away. There's still half a lap to go. Zloty, meanwhile, is being closed up by Simo. Simo is 1 second back now and closing rapidly. Can Zloty hold on for P5? We will wait to see as they make their way here through turn number 8. It looks as though Zloty's had a better run out of 8 compared to Simo, who's now only starting to close up in the run up towards the hairpin at turn 10. But as they make their way through right now, I think Zloty coming into the final sector will be safe just about. We'll wait to see. But meanwhile, race leaders, this is how close they are. It's the case that Momo's only got 4 more corners to go. He comes up through 16. He goes under the bridge for turn 17. 2 more corners remaining. Mihao's in his rearview mirror. He's not close enough to look for a move on the line. And as they come to the final 2 corners, he's only got 1 more to go. Can he hold on? He can do it as he comes out the final corner. It's Momo87 who takes the win for RTA in race number 4. Mihao from KRT and P2, a brilliant battle between 2 of them into the end. And then we've got ART Zeno who holds on to the final step of the podium ahead of KRT's Clarence. A brilliant drive by both of them as well. And then it looks as though Zloty is going to finish P5 with Zymo right on his 6 in the end, and then it will be THG's R18 with that hit on the wall on the pit entry, costing him the chance at a higher position, but P7 for the Australian, and then it will be Lumic who comes home in P8 from KSZR. When all is said and done here, a consistent set of results to the Czechoslovakian side. He'll be pleased with that as he crosses the line, and it's going to be GTWGP Zpot who's struggling with that tyre wear, and I think he's run out of fuel. In fact, he's run out of fuel on the finish line, so Zpot will come home in P9 when all is said and done, and it will be Bobby from ART who finishes P10 under classification, and GTB's Damien92 finishes P11, retiring on the opening lap. But a fantastic set of races tonight, and well, congratulations to all of our drivers, but to these two who really have stood above the rest of the field in race number 4. And I think in the end for me, how it was that one mistake on lap 15 when he was coming out of turn 18 where he went too deep that cost him the chance of being there right in the slipstream at the end, because it was 3 to 4 attempts that he lost, and I think he would have gained even more in the run down towards turn 1 if he'd nailed it. And Mihal, I think, will be kicking himself as soon as he gets out that car tonight, thinking to himself, if I hadn't made that one mistake, I would have been right there on the final lap. But still, to come home in P2 versus Momo, who they're both of them putting in a brilliant job, and that shows how much they were both driving on the limit of what was possible. And in the end, it was the Belgian and Momo who would come home with the win. Zeno, the same situation, holding off Clarence in the end, but it just goes to show you how managing those tyres, and 9, how far you can push when the tyres are at their limit in terms of that wear is so important. And Zeno just managing that race of P3, a brilliant drive between these two drivers as well. And Zloty to hold off Ipsimo in the end is no mean feat in itself, and Ipsimo just being plagued with corners catching him out, particularly turn 11 and also turn number 16. I think Ipsimo will be pleased that we're no longer doing any more racing at Autopolis come the end of tonight. Well, at least for this year of racing, I'm not sure what GT Fusion has planned in terms of the calendar for 2022, but still, it's one of those situations where I think Ipsimo will be just pleased to know we are leaving the Autopolis circuit behind. It's one of those circuits, it's a Marmite circuit, you either love it or you hate it, and I think Ipsimo's been bitten twice by it today as they all make their way around now on the cool down lap. Brilliant drive from everybody, and we can see R18 here, he'll be ruining the impact into the pit entry wall and how that cost him a shot. I reckon that if he hadn't hit that wall, he would have definitely been in the fight for P5, if not potentially for P3. But still, you win some, you lose some, and I think even with that, R18 is going to be one of our best finishers overall tonight, if not our overall winner. But with that, congratulations to all of our drivers, and a special congratulations to RTA's Momo 87 from Belgium. What a brilliant race to conclude proceedings today. And here are your final race results, subject to any issues inquiries, for race number 4 of Group F, that's Lobby F or Split 6. In the end, it was RTA's Momo 87 winning by 1.1 seconds over Mihal from KRT, and the final step of the podium being taken by Zeno from ART. Completing our top 5 was Clarence from KRT and Zloty from PRT, and then in P6 and completing our field was Ipsimo 91 representing INCR, R18E from THG, Lumic 1 from KSZR, Zpot from GTWGP, and then last of our classified finishers was Bobby from ART, and then we had the non-finisher of GTB's Damien92i who retired on the opening lap. The fastest lap being set on lap 15 by Zpot, who in the end I think just went for the fastest lap on those fresh tyres, a 38.260. Brilliant racing all the way through, and just putting all these results very briefly into our tracker. What I can tell you is that, subject to any stewards' inquiries tonight, just give me 2 seconds, ladies and gentlemen, it will be the case. I think we do have one driver who has run away with the overall result of tonight of being the highest placed driver or the highest placed finisher in this group, as we're just capturing all the results here very shortly. But as we capture the results, what I can tell you is that, subject to any stewards' inquiries, it will be THG's R18E who walks away from Group F today as the overall winner, with 2 second-place finishes, a 1st and a 7th. And then in P2, finishing P2 overall today, was KRT's Clarence, who having picked up the win in race 1, and also a 5th place in race 2, a 2nd place in race 3, and a 4th place in race 4. A good set of results there. And finishing 3rd in the group was ART Zeno with a 4th, a 1st, a 5th, and a 3rd. Brilliant driving from all of our drivers. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that has been round 5 for the GT Fusion 2021 Team World Championship on Gran Turismo Motorsport for Group F. And thank you very much for tuning in. Now, if you've liked what you've seen today and you've enjoyed the racing, fear not, because what I can tell you is that tomorrow we are going to be back bringing you a Group C. That's right, we will be bringing you the 3rd split, one of our 3 splits that's racing tomorrow. Our top 3 splits race on Sunday, and we will be bringing you the 3rd of those splits, Group C. The time we start broadcasting will be at 6:05 British Summer Time or UTC +1 in the evening. That's 18:05. You won't want to miss it. We have got plenty of racing ahead of us. But until then, when we come back to the Autopolis circuit tomorrow for plenty more racing action, I have been Paul TX141 Walsh. We have been at GT Fusion. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, remember to stay on track. Good night.